Nosotros Trabajamos Duro.
Oh, yeah. This one you'll set off by proximity.
Oh,
and this one is
alarm, which is really cool. Yeah.
The static. Yeah, it's the This is a triboelectric meter, so any sort of static field that runs through this one basically will get. I'm going to turn the temp sensor off on this one.
Yeah.
That is just going.
There we go.
But the MEL part, this usually something has to break the field. So what we look for with the MEL REM, it does give us the readings as far as the EMF, the temperature, but it's the REM part of it that if it goes off when nobody's touching it, that's what sort of gets my attention. That's all, Makes me kind of go, oh, what's touching it?
Oh, thank you, sir.
Oh, look, it's like a little ghost. Or is it a skull?
I think it's a skull, right?
No, it's a
ghost. Yep, perfect.
You got a little ghosty. How cute. It is fitting, actually. Now you got your Halloween decorations, so
that's right.
Yeah.
It's Halloween time.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So, well, thank you for inviting us to gab a little bit about some of our paranormal fun, and now the K2 meter wants to go off.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So that's
the temp sensor.
That's a temperature alarm. It's detecting
funny.
So what does that mean that now that it's going off?
It's detecting a sudden drop in temperature around the sensor.
And I'm wondering if we can't debunk it with two things, possibly the warm coffee and him walking by and creating a breeze.
Yeah, more breeze because that loud pitch, that really loud high pitch, that means that the temperature dropped, not
Gotcha.
So we're very good about, we know that science and spirituality go together. Mm-hmm. They do belong together. He's the more larger debunker about things, but at the same time, we do need to be able to understand, what we're doing when we're going into people's homes or if we're going into big locations. We have to be able to, understand that there is a very scientific element that goes along with what I'm feeling spiritually, because I am an empathic medium, an aura reader. I feel all the things, but the science part of it matters tremendously. I mean, it really, it's very valuable. It's really important because when you go to somebody's home, they've got all these claims of things that are going on in their space. They're scared, they're intimidated, or they don't know what's going on. And, sometimes very often when we get called in, it is definitely paranormal, but it's not always all paranormal.
You want to know what you're looking at.
Sometimes it's bad wiring, or it's a squirrel in the attic, or there's other explanations that can be part of a bigger picture, along with they could have somebody wandering around their house. So we kind of like to give them that layered approach and that bigger picture where we try all the different elements, including my gifts and my abilities, along with everything. So
there are a lot of groups out there that will have this equipment with no idea what it measures or how it works.
Yeah.
And the famous case was I think I can say it. The famous case was Rob Lowe, and he had one. Of these saying, "Speak into the instrument." Like, this does not record sound.
It's a K2 meter.
Now, was that on a show that you saw that he was on?
He had a very short-lived paranormal show. Yeah.
Oh, he had his own show. Okay.
For all of
it lasted one season.
I get it.
I mean, he's got a lot of great things he does. He seems like a cool actor, cool guy, but nobody sat down and told him what each of these meters does. They all have their different little functions, and sometimes they cross over where, some of them will be a little broader spectrum, like the MEL REM. Mm-hmm. The level of EMF that it measures is going to be a lot more broad than what, say, the tri-field meter can really hone into it and narrow it down and kind of dial us in. That's why we use each of these layers, and we have tons of other equipment. We have 350 pounds worth of gear that we bring to an investigation. Obviously, we're not going to bring all that, today, but we've got all kinds of different things that measure every little minute piece of energy, along with even our structured light sensor camera that we really love. You've probably seen it on some of the paranormal shows where it makes little stick figures,
Okay, yeah.
That kind of thing.
I've seen that. Is that a recent kind of paranormal craft?
Sort of. It's a more newer-ish development. It's been around and used in the field probably for at least the last 10 years, right?
Well,
give or take.
the prop guy, the science advisor, I don't know if it's science advisor, but the prop guy for Paranormal Activity for the movie was
also the producer too.
The producer, had a hand in basically inventing the SLS camera.
Really?
Yeah. So
or realizing that it could be something.
Yeah. What happened was if you've seen the movie, they filled the cover of the room with basically the Kinect technology, the green dots, to turn off the lights and have the green dots and everything, which a lot of that you can't really see unless you're looking in the infrared spectrum, so it doesn't necessarily look that way. But that's the way they did it in the movie.
For movies.
And then you see this kid get up off the couch and
it's just the dots.
It's not exactly the way it appears in the movie. They kind of did it up for Hollywood, so it'd be scary.
They had artistic interpretation.
Yeah, but the concept is the same, and they had somebody go, well, I wonder if that would work for real.
Okay,
this
cool.
is the movie. I wonder if that would work for real. Somebody who was associated with the movie took it upon himself to make an infrared camera and the Kinect device, and basically without getting into the science, it's called the RBD camera that records in different spectrums, mainly the infrared spectrum.
Yeah.
And if you look at the SLS camera while it's running with an infrared or a full spectrum camera, you'll see the infrared projection. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So and lo and behold, it worked. Mm-hmm. They started picking up spirits in cemeteries and stuff with it. This thing works, and so it became widespread use. And it's a kind of, I'd say it's a burgeoning technology. It can mismap things.
Yeah, you have to know, just like all of these that you have to know how to use. You have to know how to use it too and debunk.
Mm-hmm.
It'll map a coat rack.
Yeah, it'll think a coat rack's a person. So you have to be careful. Yeah.
Okay, cool. It'll sense something and then
anything that has that upright stance.
If you want to take a positive hit as something that's mapping out a humanoid figure with no physical body there and nothing that it could be mismapping.
Right.
So there's no vacuum or fan or whatever. Or when you talk to it, it actually raises its hand to wave at you, or you say, "Hey, can you move?" It'll actually move off of what it's on.
Intelligent communication.
Yeah, it's if it's actually intelligent interaction, like it's actually moving and it's actually interacting with you, and it's not mapping something that is an inanimate object that has a slight physical form to it. We've gotten plenty of those.
Yeah, we had.
It's nice and creepy when it happens, but it's also very validating too. If you feel like something's in the space, it doesn't always have to be a negative entity in the space. By the way, like we were talking about earlier, we can feel like there's negative things, but there's also positive energies that can be in the space. Our guardian protectors and angels, and it could just be grandma. It doesn't have to be some demon from the depths of hell. It could just be grandma or grandpa walking through the house, checking on you, saying, "Oh, hey, what's going on?" It doesn't have to be negative by any means.
And that's usually what it seems like to me. Is just a ghost that's just there for whatever reason. None of them never really, to me, seem to have like malice to them at all. Maybe they might make something move for whatever reason, but I never really.
No, and I'm glad that
I've heard other people say that they've encountered weird ghosts and stuff. But
the fact that you're not experiencing those negative things, that's good. That's how it should be. And it also probably shows that you have a little extra layer of protection and sort of a bubble of like light, and some of your ancestors and your loved ones probably are watching out for you. That kind of thing. Yeah, it's very helpful to have that too. But yeah, we've had clients that call because something more serious is going on. It's not just grandma. It's not just grandpa. It's something a little heavier, a little darker. There's something more challenging happening in the space. They're being attacked, or they're scared, or they're being terrified and woken up every night. Some people even have physical phenomena beyond just our loved ones. Sometimes will move things, and they'll be funny about it. But where it goes over the line is when they're scratching you, or they're pushing you, or other physical attacks, or things like that. That's when it gets more serious, and we don't just go in and document. We also formulate resolutions for our families that we go and visit. So we do a full house blessing, and blessing of the people or the animals too. And I have collected so much just stuff from everywhere in my cleansing kit. It's a 35-pound cleansing kit, because I really want to hit the real hard stuff as intensely as I can.
Yeah.
So I've got stuff that holy water from the grotto in Lourdes, France. I have it shipped in. It's got that wonderful vibration to it.
Now, what's good? Like, if you don't mind me asking, like, what's like so great about it, Lourdes from France? Because part of me would think, I mean, not being, I don't know if you're Catholic or whatever. But to me, holy water, whatever is going to combat.
All holy water will work.
But why not the Vatican? That's kind of my thing. Like, why not there? Like, that to me seems like that'd be the place.
I don't know if they actually sell it from their gift shop.
Okay, that might be the thing.
But the grotto does, because they want to support their mission, so they do sell products. You can also buy their holy water at the Carmel Mission, in California, over by Monterey and all that. It's just something, people have gone there to receive healings. That's where the vibrational energy for me shifts. All holy water will work. It's all blessed. It's all good. I've used other holy water that's fine. But something about the energetic connection I have with it and the vibration, it just feels the elevation of it. And the miracles that have occurred in this location are just above and beyond.
Okay.
So I bring that to the table along with everything else I do my blessings. No, I'm not exclusively to one religion in my blessings. That is one element.
I would tend to say that the holy water works better if you do have a person of the Christian faith who's implying, and she is.
Yeah, no,
she's not Catholic, but she's Christian.
I consider myself a metaphysical Christian. So in my cleansing kit, I have things from Creole and kind of almost voodoo practice.
Yeah, I did on that.
I've got a lot of that in my cleansing kit. I've also got a ton of the native elements in my cleansing. So both regular like natives here, but also like Central and Southern South America type of tribal cleansing rituals. That's where my Palo Santo comes from, is Central and South America.
Oh, cool.
I will use sage, cedar, sweetgrass. I will take all kinds of different elements from different religions, different practices, different techniques. I have studied under and trained with Amy Allen from the Dead Files. She's my mentor, so I have worked very closely with her and learned from her and several other amazing light workers in the local community, but also the bigger community, psychic medium Sarah Lemos, who's also like on the Travel Channel, and a few other things. I worked with her as well. And just learning from other people and different tools to cleanse and try this and try that has been so helpful in just furthering my knowledge, my education, and then the ability to apply that to helping families. I mean, it is so rewarding, and it feels so good to just to give back in that way and to learn, but we never stop learning. So that's why I keep just taking classes. I keep learning from other people. I keep bringing in new practices to continue to just help our clients the best way I possibly can. Because a lot of them are very scared. They're in these situations. They don't know what they're going to do. So they deserve, 110, 120% out of me and out of our team. And that's why we bring all the science to it. That's why we bring all the spirituality to it, and why I keep just driving myself all the time to work harder and harder to know more and to learn more and to give more, because our clients deserve it.
You're also a trained and certified demonologist.
Oh yeah, there is that. Yeah, I am that too. Yeah, I did learn. I studied under Jeremy Leonard. He's the Cajun demonologist out of Louisiana. So I studied under him as well, and it's you've got to put the more tools in your toolbox, the better, because just going into somebody's house and just poking around in the dark and waving around just a bundle of sage. I mean, intent is everything. So if you're going in there with positive intent and you don't have everything, that's fine. Going in there with loving positive intent will help. But you can't just go in there, let me stir it up, let me poke some meters around, let me take some EVPs and just run out the front door. Because then you're stirring up the energy, but you're not really telling the clients what's going on, how do you resolve it, how do you keep it positive. Some of our clients need to learn how to do maintenance work because they may be sensitive to themselves. So they need me to empower and educate them so they can continue keeping stuff positive in their space. So, we try to be sort of a one-stop shop. We try to give them everything from private readings, full investigations, house blessings, Reiki and energy work. We try to offer them just a little bit of anything and everything that we can so they don't have to feel like they're lost at sea when they call us out, or that we came out and made it worse. God, we would never want that.
Don't be a paranormal monitor.
Yeah. Hey, don't be a paranormal monitor, essentially. Just, get in there and actually put your heart into it. Put your passion into it. Because it really does matter.
Yeah.
You know, these are people's lives we're talking about, and their happiness and their safety. And we would like to give the dead a voice too. They have a story to tell on occasion. They might want something or need something. They may be stuck in a space, and they just might need help moving on to the next plane of existence. So, you know, we want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Right.
We're one of the few groups available that come to your house and fix the problem. Even if it takes more than one visit, we not only identify the problem, we fix the problem. And because we've both studied thousands of hours about what we do and how we do it, we are confident when we go into a location that we're going to win. That's a foregone conclusion that we're going to win. We have the tools to be able to say that.
Yeah.
And
we're also not so arrogant to think that if they do need some other type of specialist of some sort, we're not so arrogant to think, hey, we'd like you to call this type of specialist or this type of specialist. We're also comfortable in saying, we'd like to refer you need a Catholic priest, or we have our friend Michael Gorman, he's a Druid priest, you know, all these different people. Like, we may say, hey, you need a little bit of this. Or
specifically requested on one case.
Yeah, or sometimes if it's really heavily native based, we say, hey, you need to bring out a native shaman or medicine person from a specific tribe to come out and bless your land. Things like that. We're happy to say, hey, we will do all of these things, but you need this one extra layer, and it's not a layer that we specialize in, because I'm not from that tribe, so we need you to do that. And
no, I understand that. I get that.
That's one of the big ones, is we can't speak for native tribes, so that's one of the big ones where we're like, that's something that we need to call in somebody who's from that tribe, from that culture.
Yeah, exactly. So we're comfortable, referring out for those types of specific needs. At the same time, I've been taught and educated to utilize some of the practices of a variety of these different cultures and these different belief systems. So I'm able to do what I'm, trained to do and what my soul feels comfortable in. But if they need a specialist, it's like, you go to your regular doctor, but hey, you need the podiatrist for this ingrown toenail. It's just like a little specialty that sometimes you just need a specialist for something.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I follow 100% on that.
Yeah.
That's cool. But like, say you do go to a tribe, but you do have the aspect that you might be able to handle it as well, right? That you might not need to...
there's a possibility that if it is just some sort of native energy, I can help the clients either give offerings to whatever energy's on the land. Yes, a lot of the time we can resolve it just ourselves if it's something that's easy enough to resolve. Sometimes the land has been so scarred that it requires a very specific type of additional blessing that is well above and beyond, that is a very special ceremony that I haven't been trained to do. But if it's a basic, land blessing, we even we'll do something what's called gridding of the land. We'll take certain crystals and bury it on certain points in the property to raise the vibration of the overall property. We've been trained to do that from a metaphysical perspective, and we'll do that to raise the energy and make the land better. So we have a veritable pantheon of tools in our arsenal to really help every single client that we can. And again, we know that, hey, if it's something that needs X, Y, or Z, we are also able to identify what do they need to do and who do they need to call. So it's something we learned a lot when I worked with Amy, and I've been taking her classes and everything. She'll say, hey, you need this type, this type, this type. It's the same thing she did in the dead file. She would tell people that they would need a layer of, these different type of practitioners. You need a medium, you need a this, you need a that, to come to a place. And a couple of cases that she actually had us do blessings for after episodes of the shows. We went to a Fresno case for her and a Victorville case for her. Those are outside our normal service area, by the way. We don't normally travel that far. We're 2.5 hours from the Sacramento areas where we normally travel.
Okay, that's all right.
That's our normal radius, but she had us go to these other places and, told us the layers of things. But some of the layers can be combined. If you have a medium who is, also a Reiki master, which I am, then you don't need to get two separate people. You just have one person that can do both of those tasks on a location. And that is okay to do if you have a practitioner that can do multiple healing modalities.
Shout out to Amy Allen too. She cares about her clients so much. that she paid for us to go down to Victorville because
nice.
we can't
Cool for Andy Allen,
we can't really do that.
Yeah.
And she said, "Well, I'll pay if you'll go. I'll pay." And so she put So shout out to her. She's not just a face on a TV show. She really cares.
Yeah, she
Nice.
she truly deeply gives a crap about what happens to these people after the television show. Now the show is finally is done after 15 seasons, and she's able to actually live her own life for once. Finally.
Right.
Poor gal. Traveling around is very hard on the body in general. But
I believe that.
It's even harder when you're a sensitive or a psychic medium or in her case a physical medium. She literally was absorbing so much from all of those places, and it gets very hard on the body, and we feel that to a degree as well when we go into a lot of our clients' homes. So it's a lot of work. It's a labor of love, though. It really is.
I follow. Like, to ask on this, because earlier you said you wanted, planting the crystals to raise, the positive vibration and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is it almost like a mathematical thing sometimes? Just, as long as you have, the positivity outweighing the negative, it just kind of stays away, it doesn't interact or whatever?
It can definitely, it's almost like it's the megahertz, it's the vibrational megahertz that it raises a location to.
Okay.
That actually can push away things that vibrate at a lower frequency. Usually the darker, heavier, more negative energies vibrate at a different frequency. So if you're raising the frequency of yourself or the entire space, it doesn't leave room for anything else to be in that space.
I get you.
So
That
it can absolutely
Perfect
help.
example of what you're talking about. If you there's the Vacaville Rock Shop. I don't know what the place is.
I think it's just the rock
Just
shop.
Vacaville Rock Shop. That's what I thought it was called. You go in there and they have a geode room, right?
Oh, I love that room
You
so
can
much.
feel the energy in that room. That it takes.
It makes your skin tingle a
You
little bit.
can actually feel the vibration of those geodes in that room, and it's just an uplifting thing. You feel like you're in almost like a sacred space, and it's that energy on a very subtle level. Though that kind of energy, if it's higher vibration, then that's going to push away the lower vibration. It really is a kind of equation. Melissa's our expert in knowing which rocks do which on the.
Yeah.
We think of it as the paranormal or the metaphysical level, but it really is science. It's using one atomic vibration to push away a lower atomic vibration. It really is a science, and it's I'd hate to use the word pseudoscience, but it's probably not yet completely acknowledged by mainstream science, but there is a science to what we do. These instruments can all measure specific things, specific frequencies that tell us, hey, well, this is a low frequency over here, so I need to use this kind of rock over here. Things like hematite, selenite, labradorite.
Yeah, we use a variety of different things. I have white aragonite I put in, rose quartz to bring up the sort of the love and the vibration. Jet is a really good one because it's a transmuter. Black tourmaline is a good transmuter. They basically, all these different rocks and crystals and gems, they all have their own makeup of what they're literally made of and how they affect the environment that they are in. So I wear hematite a lot of the time just to ground me.
Sound can be used.
Sound healing is good
sound
too.
metal
Yeah.
bells,
Yeah, I've heard that one. I can believe. I'm really open to believe a lot of it. Or I don't know if I believe some things more than others, and open to whatever more. But I believe in sound healing for sure, because I feel like I've had that before. My ex, she used to perform music and stuff, and had what are those little bell things you can ding? It's like the tuning bell.
Oh yeah.
Or whatever. She'd have some of those, and you could do that, and so you could feel that. And even playing music sometimes, I can feel that uplift, just write songs and stuff. It's you can feel all that.
It reverberates through your soul, and it's sound healing, like all the healing, like the bowls and all those kind of things. It changes the whole vibration in the room in a really beautiful and really special way. So I have some tincture bells in my cleansing kit that I have actually used during blessings of people before, because it changes the vibration of them too. But it's all about just using what components you have, different layers you have, in order ultimately to help the living and help the deceased. That is always our mission as Spirit, is just to help both sides. And probably, I'm sure John probably showed you what when he came to interview with you and everything, but technically, if you want the long name of who we are, it's Sacramento Paranormal Intuitive Research Investigation Team. That's why Spirit is much easier to remember for everybody, or a lot of people call us Sac SPIRIT.
I've heard that one. Like I can, even though, because the S is Sacramento, right?
Right. It's redundant. It's redundant, but we've become known.
But we've become known like on the radio
as Sac SPIRIT.
Yeah, but that makes sense because I don't know. Sometimes redundant things do make sense.
It happens all the time.
But it's kind of good to be known as like Sac SPIRIT is like, cause that's like the number one thing you're going to hear.
Yep.
Probably. Yeah.
When everyone refers to us, that's usually either Spirit or Sac SPIRIT. That's how they find us or know us, and so.
I think the radio station that we're affiliated with a little bit kind of coined that term.
They did a little bit. So we just kept putting it out there. Well, it's also
kept calling us Sac SPIRIT. It just stuck.
It's also our website.
Yeah.
It is. Okay.
So SacSpirit.com. So that's how people.
That's probably how it came about.
Spirit.com was taken. So.
Yeah. Well, we're in Sacramento. Let's just do that. And it
Right.
actually kind of worked. It sort of helped out. But it's good to have an acronym so people can find us because we are on all the different socials and everything.
It's one of those things that just rolls off the tongue easy. People remember it.
Like, hey, that's Sac SPIRIT. Okay,
Yeah. No, that's a good one to have for sure.
Yeah. No, we love being just able to do everything we can to be helpful and part of the healing energy collectively, and it really is a labor of love and a real important mission to us because it's not even a hobby. Like, we enjoy doing this, and there's a lot of interesting things we can learn, and we like going to some of the big locations like Preston Castle and Alcatraz and all of that. But it's the local personal, like the private residence investigations and blessings. And even the readings that I do, that's where it really just hits home because we're really serving a purpose. We're really, putting it all to use and giving of ourselves in a really important way. It's a passion, not a hobby. A lot of people do treat it as a hobby, and I guess if people just want to kind of explore it a little bit in the hobby sense, that's fine. I'm not gonna knock that for people. But for us, we actually want to do something productive with it, especially with the gifts that I was stuck with since birth. I've got to do something with them, and I want it to be something, useful. I wasn't just given all these blessings and these gifts to just sit on them. They have to do something with all of this.
We give up most of our free time to do this.
Yeah.
And believe you me, there are things that I could rather be doing. But her gift is real, and we can help people. We figured that out, and we want to give back and be able to do that. And we both give up a lot of personal things that we can do. I'm a big outdoorsman. Like most guys, I'd rather be fishing. But
I get you.
We are doing better at managing our time.
This is important work, and when we had the first few people say, if this didn't work, I was going to take myself out. If this didn't work, there might have been a fire. Somebody said that to us.
Oh, damn.
This is life and death that we deal with, and we're giving people a second chance at life. And when I realized that Melissa had the ability to do that, that's not something that we take lightly. That's not something that everybody can do. And she just has a God-given gift. And I truly believe that. I've seen it too many times. And that's coming from somebody whose religion is science. My religion is science, and I tested it when we first got together. We first got together. I say, all right, you can know things that you can possibly know. Tell me something about myself you couldn't possibly know.
And I actually hate when people do that kind of stuff because that's not really how the gift works.
No.
It's I get to know what I get to know at the time that I'm allowed to know it. You knocked
that one out of the park.
Well, luckily the universe said, "All right, this guy needs a miracle. Just here you go.
She told me something from my childhood that was so unlikely.
Before I was even born.
Yeah, so unlikely from a small town in the Rocky Mountains that the place was torn down in 1974 that she couldn't possibly have known about, and she knew what the inside looked like. She knew that my dad used to take me there. She knew way too much about it.
It was a little weird.
There's nothing that I ever told her about.
Yeah, you had not mentioned. It was very early on.
Nothing I told anybody about.
Well, because why would you? It was so random from your...
It was a memory from when I was 3 years old.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
And so she knew about this place, and she knew about it inside out and exactly what... And I was like, all right, you got a real gift.
If you don't mind me asking, is it like a kind of like telepathy? What would you say the gift?
I'm weird.
You are weird.
So I classify myself as an empathic medium, and I also have the ability to read auras, which is like the energy field around the body. But the empathic mediumship is, when you hear mediums, you think of what you see on movies and TV, and that's rarely what it's really like. I feel a lot from the other side. They will show me emotions, bits and pieces of the personality. They'll give me little glimmers of information. It's almost like playing Pictionary and charades with the other side. So I get little feelings, I get little pictures, I get, sometimes almost like a movie picture projector, like going in front of my
I understand that. Yeah, I get that 100%.
Yeah, and then just like sort of things will pop in, and sometimes I'll just know it. It'll just boop, I'll just suddenly just know something. Yeah. So like a lot of the clairvoyant gifts, like the claircognizance, that I fall into a lot of the clairvoyant tendencies as well. But yeah, I just feel things and know things, and when I pick it up, I pick it up. When I don't, it's fine. I don't worry about it. But I do have the ability to read objects and also remote view to some degree, a little bit. So I think when I picked the memories out of his brain, it was sort of almost like a backwards version of maybe like remote viewing, like I was going back into the past and just being shown a memory from either from inside of his brain or from one of his relatives that is already on the other side telling me the information. I'm not even sure. It popped in, and I saw this vision, like a ticker tape just going by, like, oh, here's this information. Here's what this place looked like. And I remote viewed into a place that no longer exists. And I don't even know how I did that.
And
it was so weird to me, but
it was something so specific to it. It was a giant milk carton on top of the building, pouring milk into a cup that sat on top of the building. So it wasn't something she could guess.
Yeah, it's a really random.
Yeah, it was something really random. That's why I knew, because it was such a specific thing, and what the inside looked like. And I had it was a very fond memory of mine.
It seemed like a cute little place.
Old-fashioned soda jerk place.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was in the town that I grew up in.
I saw like the way the seats looked and like the countertop and the floor. It's just weird to me, but I wouldn't even consider remote viewing one of my dominant gifts at all, but it's just something that happens. And the psychometry, the reading of objects, that one is one I don't even utilize that often, but when I do, I get some weird stuff. I get some really weird feelings from...
You walked into my apartment, I was like, what's up with that painting?
Oh,
like, right away. Yeah.
I've heard of other people kind of having that, like, to where they'll read stuff, and sometimes I'm thinking it could just be a weird piece of art, because it never really happened, like, to me, I don't think.
Yeah.
But, like, I feel like people, I've, like, heard stories where people are like, yeah, I walked in and people would be like, oh, something weird about, like, that, which...
Yeah. No, I mean, everyone to some degree has a little bit of ability somewhat to get tuned into the universe, the things around them, but not everybody does, and not everyone has to, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, some people are just much more attuned, like they get really, vivid dreams that tell them sort of messages and things, or some people just get a feeling when they walk into a house and like, oh, this is interesting. It's good for when people are like looking to buy a house and they get a feeling like, oh, I don't want to buy that house.
Yeah.
That can be useful. But not everyone taps into their feelings. Some people are 100% completely closed off to feeling any of what's naturally the potential within them. Mm. And other people, it just keeps batting them in the face until they're like, all right, fine, I have a gift, okay, leave me alone, I'll use it. Sometimes you can't run from it. There's other people that it's just very, very low vibration in the background, and you don't notice it, and you kind of ignore it and write it off. And it doesn't have to be part of your daily life, and that's okay. Most people I encounter, that's how they live their lives.
Gotcha.
But I also encounter a lot of people that have these little sensitivities, and you're like, oh, doesn't everybody do that? And I'm like, no, not everyone actually does feel the way you're feeling. So it's good that you're actually listening to your soul a little bit. And, the people who are sensitive, I am more than happy to educate them, help them, guide them, point them in the direction of classes they can take from other people that I've taken from, things like that. Because if you really do want to explore your abilities, it's good to carefully and safely and correctly explore and learn about them, because it can be done wrong. It can be done in a way that is actually detrimental to the gifted person, whether you're a medium or a psychic or an empath or clairvoyant, whatever, part of the umbrella you fall under.
Yeah.
if you actually have this gift and you explore it in a dangerous way and you're dabbling into things you don't know what you're dabbling into, you could get attachments, you could get negative entities coming near you, you could go nuts. I mean, a lot of bad things can happen if you're not safe with the exploration.
And is most of that like people using like a Ouija board or something?
That's a big danger, especially for a sensitive. It's even worse of a risk. But yeah, we've had to fix a lot of people's homes that have, I was just playing because it's just a game. And you know what? Yes, it is sold as a board game. I understand that. And I know that in and of itself, the physical cardboard, the plastic planchette, all of that, it is just that. It's just material.
Yeah.
But it is the energetic purpose and intent that goes into the exploration with that particular type of device.
And if there is an entity around too, I suspect.
And they also, darker, lower vibrational entities I have found and discovered through this work are more attracted to that form of communication because it's older. It's been around for hundreds of years.
They recognize it.
Yeah, they recognize it, so it's easier for them to get into it.
Okay, that makes sense.
And most people that use that as a form of exploration are not doing it with the anal retentive level that I am when I go in, and if I use a spirit box or my own gifts or any of this equipment. They're just like, it's a bunch of kids around a table, and they all get scared. They run away. They don't close the session. It's a wide open door, and it almost always attracts a negative entity. Sometimes does nothing happen? That's true. Sometimes nothing happens. And then that's great. But a lot of the time, things happen much later and cause a lot more havoc. People that use it as decorations in their house, as long as there's not a planchette on it, I don't care. Have a carpet that has it on it. Just don't have a Roomba, I guess. But, it's okay for decor, things like that. I'm okay with people who collect them that aren't using them. Again, I don't disparage anybody's, practice or belief, but they can be very, very harmful. They can be very dangerous. They are of a lower vibration. They're not as controlled with a controlled person there that can actually manage the session correctly or safely. It's kind of like you think of, working with a medium or a medium with a spirit box. It's kind of like the high-end hotel where you get the little chocolate on your pillow and the cute little towel folded like a dog, and it's all really nice, and it's presented well, and most of the time you're gonna have a good experience.
Yeah.
Whereas you might, have a bunch of teenagers around a Ouija board. Well, what you're gonna have, it's like the low-end Skid Row motel, and the lock doesn't work on the door, and maybe you're sleeping, half naked. Is something bad gonna happen? Very possibly.
Yeah, there's a bunch of meth freaks around or something like that.
Things are much more likely to go wrong in that scenario versus the nice little hotel with the good little lock and the pretty little chocolate and all that. So it's all about intent and usage and just what the other side knows. The other side knows when people are breaking that out that their energy vibration is at a different level.
And we can speak from experience.
Well, yeah, we've had to clean up some dark messes.
Some over 700 cases now that we've done. I would say 20% of those. Most of the time, it's grandma or an uncle or maybe just a dead guy that lived there before and needs a little help crossing over.
Yeah.
I'd say 20% of them are darker cases where there's something a little bit more malevolent going on. Of those 20%. I would say probably 5% are something that we would consider to be otherworldly, demonic, never having been human. Let's just define it that way. Some sort of entity,
darker, heavier entity,
entity that have never been human. Of that 5%, the worst of the worst is like I'd say we'll just throw a number out there and say 2% out of the 700 cases are the heavily demonic cases where life and limb is involved and it's super serious and it's life or death. Of that 2%, every single one of them was caused by a Ouija board.
Oh.
Really?
Every single one.
Yeah, we are not.
Somebody playing around with a Ouija board. Sometimes we don't know it till after the case is over. There was a case where like the person broke down crying and was like, "I'm so sorry, this is all my fault." I was like, no, it's fine. It's fine. This is not your fault. These things happen. We're here to fix it. It's okay. No, you don't understand. We slaughtered a chicken on a Ouija board in the garage and didn't tell anybody. Well, that changes things.
Did they draw like a pentagram? Oh, God.
It's like you brought something bad.
They did everything you could do wrong in a row together all at once in one spot.
sometimes bad things happen to good people. That's true.
And then grandma gets possessed.
Yeah, but most of the time, when you bring these heavily demonic entities, it's mostly people bringing them upon themselves by interfacing with something that you don't know what you're dealing with.
Yeah. That is very frequently people dabbling incorrectly, and not just the Ouija board, but other modalities or whatever they're doing something wrong, some sort of seance, some sort of thing that they don't know what they're doing, and they're calling upon things that they don't understand. There are cases we've gone into that have been really dark, where it really wasn't their fault. Like that one older gal that she moved into a house that they had been doing negative stuff before she bought the house. And so this entity was attacking her. It was
wrong place, wrong time.
It was raping her at night.
Ah, damn.
And she was like a 65-year-old woman. And she was not asking for this shit. Let me tell you, she did not want this happening in her space.
I've heard of this kind of thing happening before, like other stuff I've like listened to.
Like an incubi or succubi, that sort of deal can happen. And she did not invite it. She just happened to accidentally buy a house that people had been doing darker practices in prior to her buying it. So,
I'm just trying to figure. Was it an incubus that was there?
Yeah.
Okay, it wasn't just some like dude that died and was like, oh man, I like this. It was.
Human entities can go darker and act like mimic activities similar to that. But this was a full, because the things that it was saying on the spirit box and the other evidence we were getting on that night. Yes,
I forgot about that EVP. That's right. We got a really good EVP on that.
Yeah, that one was creepy. So we definitely got some weird stuff that happened there that definitely let us know what was going on. And that actually required 2 blessings. First time we had to really knock it out, but then it tricked her with a dream, and she accidentally invited it back in because invitation is everything. I can cleanse the hell out of somebody's house, but if you spiritually or verbally or somehow invite it back in, well, it undoes my blessing, and it really pisses me off when it happens. But this wasn't her fault. It tricked her, and it gave her a dream of somebody from her youth that she really liked and missed, that I guess was deceased or whatever.
Oh, okay, damn.
And so that was the whole thing. Got back in there, nailed it again, and then she never had a problem after that. So sometimes you have to help them, educate them on how to keep stuff out of their house too, depending on what it is.
We had an incubus case where it involved a young woman, and unfortunately she kept inviting it in. We got rid of it twice.
Was it tricking her that she kept on inviting?
That one, I think it was just weak will. I don't know. That actually turned into a missing persons case that's never been solved.
Okay, I'd like to hear a little bit about this, like kind of your background. What went on here?
Well, she ran away from home. The mom was trying to protect her, and she was an adult, but she ran away from home and just after the second time we broke the entity off of her, she kept inviting it back, and she was just having too much fun with it, I guess, and so she kept inviting it back. She eventually ran away from home, and it's still an open missing persons case. So, she was last seen in Oregon, and it's a sad case. Yes.
Yeah, some of this stuff is very challenging and very hard.
This is life and death.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, no, I hear that. That's wild, man.
Yeah, right.
We had one client that didn't want to do the aftercare because it was a mixture of, she had an entity that she had brought back from New York with her, and then got that off of her. I can't tell you about how that went. That was kind of interesting.
Oh God!
But we also needed her to do the aftercare because she had her own natural ability, and she was causing what was called PK phenomenon, psychokinetic phenomenon in her home. Her own anxiety, stress, and worries with her being gifted. She was launching her energy into the space and forming what looked like shadows walking by. She was haunting herself.
Yeah, that sounds like Carrie almost, right?
It was weird. Like things were walking by, things were moving, but it was actually coming from her. The entity that was attached to her actually made it easier for her to do that. So once the entity was sort of pulled apart from her, then that was better, but she was still having phenomena. And I told her very specific in detail, here are the things you have to do to keep this going the right direction. Mm-hmm. She thought we could just come over every week and like fix. No, I'm not Glinda the Good Witch. I can't just bibby bobbity whatever.
We're not gonna live with you.
You're like, I can't just fix everything for you. Or I can't move into your house. So here's all the things you have to work with your spiritual practitioner. She was from a different religion, so I said you need to work with your religious leaders. Okay, and you also need to do some psychotherapy, some counseling, because the counseling would actually help her manage her kind of the energy that she was pushing out and shifting out of her.
Yeah.
She didn't really want to do that part of it, but And I worried that entity would possibly reattach to her. Last I knew, it hadn't. But at the same time, she was at risk for that, refusing to do the aftercare. If I prescribe somebody aftercare in a case, it's because they need it. And I mean it. I really mean that they need to do it. But it started with, we were going to go there, check some things out in her house, and I was taking some stuff out of my cleansing kit and then organizing a few things. Mm-hmm. And we were talking, we're bantering back and forth. It was very calm. Everything was fine. And suddenly, she just looks at me and goes, "Who the fuck are you?"
Oh, damn.
Right.
And I was like, well, we're just going to go right to the cleansing.
Don't need to investigate.
We don't need to investigate. I need to fix this because I almost saw like her eyes almost looked like shifted. Yeah. And I was like,
see that every now and
then. Things have gone wrong in a fucking hurry. I need to fix this. So I got the holy water out and she ran down the hall away from me.
Damn.
So I flung some at her. It's holy water. It's not gonna really hurt you. It's water. You know, it's fine. Well, she fell down and she started writhing on the ground.
Ended up on the floor.
Yeah, and she was writhing on the ground. Her eyes were rolling back, and she closed her eyes and she started speaking in all these different languages, many of which I did not recognize.
A bunch of different languages.
It was very weird. And
at one point she goes, "Fuck your God."
Yeah, that was horrifying. And her eyes were all 100% closed when she did that. And she didn't know. I had a Greek Orthodox crucifix that I had bought, and it was right above her chest, and that's when she said that. But she could not see me doing it, and it wasn't touching her skin yet. And that's when she says, like, oh, there was something else happening. So I used probably a whole bottle of holy water, a bunch of holy oil. We got some frankincense out. I mean, we did everything. We actually did separate her from whatever this thing was, whatever.
We got her away from her.
And we got her outside, we got her calmed down. She was back to speaking normally. She knew who we were. The whole thing was fine. But that's the severity of sometimes what we encounter are things like that if you had asked me a handful of years ago would I have ever believed in, I would see something like that. No, I could never even quantify or like imagine that this would be something that I would be face to face with and having to figure out right then, right there, and do whatever I could do. And so
that was
it was very serious. But
that was the big one for me doing this. Is before we started Sac Spirit, I would have said demons and demonic entities, possessions. That's all Hollywood hogwash. There's no scientific support for that, and that doesn't exist. And what doing this work in 700 cases has taught me is that it absolutely does exist. And it is very, very, very real and very, very dangerous, and it's life-threatening. And it's funny, the story that she's telling was actually also one of the funniest things that ever happened to our group.
Yeah, before the
ever happened on the same case. It's funny, like you have these funny little moments that can happen right in the midst of something really horrible happening.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it to my dying day. We're still outside the lady's house.
But before we even went into her house.
Yeah, we're still. She couldn't get the alarm. She couldn't get the alarm to function right for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to tell us a very short story from the point of view of this car that's coming around the corner, totally unrelated to what's going on. But this guy was on a mission. It was like a little yellow smart car. Yeah. And this guy, whatever they were there, they were on a mission. They had somewhere to be. So they come whipping around this corner in this little smart car, and what they would have seen was two Rockland police cars with their doors slung open and the sirens going. The Paranormal car with our signs on it, with the doors slung open on that. Yeah. Me and my gear vest and the spirit had the spirit uniform. Melissa in her spirit uniform, and one of our guest investigators wearing a priest collar and a kilt. And about four cops, approaching the scene. And this car...
And this poor lady, like,
This car comes upon the scene and goes, just in a cartoon-like fashion, just does a 3-point turn, goes back the way it came. I don't want nothing to do with whatever this is. I will not forget that to my dying day. It was one of our most serious cases. Yeah. It started off with I don't even think I laughed about it till later. I think once we were going home with the kids, I was like, did anybody else think that yellow car was just hilarious?
Yeah, it just showed up. Bam was like, yeah, I understand that. Did not want to see anything.
Yeah.
that was interesting. And the cops obviously had to come because she set her own alarm.
Right.
Yeah.
So they were like, they had to respond to the scene, you know.
One of the few cases where the police were involved. I think police have been involved with 3 of our cases now.
Is it all mistaken identity usually that they
It
show
depends.
up?
It
No,
depends.
that one was just because she set her alarm off.
Right.
I think John might have told you the story about the one in Loma Rico
Where
because there was
the
one Corona,
Yeah. I
because
think.
they were screaming out in the bushes, but there was nobody there.
And you guys were the ones that called the cops, though, right?
Well,
one of the
one of
investigators.
the other investigators did.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. But yeah, John remember saying that, like that they were here and it was the cops came and looked around. They were
And there
like,
was nothing
whatever.
there. Yeah, there was nobody there. There was no reason for any screaming, yelling. You shine a flashlight right where the screaming is. Nothing's there.
That was a bad land.
And we actually went out a second time to that location, and it was not as intense, but it was still very screwy and creepy. And I worry about the energy out there, because that person who owned or lived in that home is no longer with us anymore. She unfortunately passed away. And I don't know. She had some health conditions and other things going on, but I'm wondering if some of the things weren't being dragged down and heard even more because of the stuff that was going on around that property.
There's tombstones in the backyard.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's this big heavy rope. Like if you picture like a maritime rope for a larger boat. Like this thing's
okay, I get you now.
This thing's like this big around, right? And it's hanging from a tree for whatever reason, and it's old, but not so old that it's going to come apart or anything.
You would think maybe a tire swing.
And
I would have guessed.
Yeah, it was one of those nights where there was not a breeze in the air at all.
I think John mentioned this.
Yeah, one of those nights was just completely still. And we're all standing there, and the rope was completely still, and there just wasn't a wisp of wind in the air. And in front of all of us, this rope just starts going back and forth like that. Nobody was touching it. I'm like,
creepy.
What the F?
Yeah.
We actually had a set of light fixtures, and a different
I
kid
remember that.
in the
Same
tones
thing.
just suddenly start swaying back and forth. And that house was out of phase with reality. There was some problems in that location. That was not good.
They gave up the entire upper floor of their house to the entity. Just said, "You stay up there, we'll stay down here."
Really? Okay.
Yeah, they really did. I had the thing brushed past my legs. I thought it was a Rottweiler. There was nothing there. I heard the growl, and I saw it, and I felt it brush past me, and I was like,
Now, do you think it could have been like a dog from hell?
"No, I don't know, but this thing, it was ethereal, you know."
Yeah, it could have been sort of a...
There was no actual dog. I just
No,
thought,
I get you. I know, I
yeah.
get you on that. But I was just thinking, like, could it be
Well,
like
those dogs that act like they say dogs from hell with the red eyes, the black dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, possibly.
Demon dogs, whatever
Oh,
they
yeah.
are. Like,
It could have been, or it could have just been the spirit of a dog, a real, like, actual just dog. I mean, we've encountered spirit animals.
I had too.
I get a lot of that.
Oh yeah. That was the case that we called There Really Is a Monster in the Closet.
Shit, what's this one?
Ouija board.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yep, that was one of the Ouija board cases.
Son of a bitch.
Leave them alone. Do not mess with these things. They're super dangerous.
Real quick, because you brought the Ouija board back, because that was a question I was going to ask earlier. Because you said it was, because I was thinking this kind of before you had like brought it up, but like, because Ouija boards, you said it comes from like an older communication, like to where it'd be like maybe a higher priest was like, I have this rock here and a rock here, move whichever. I'm just giving a hypothetical.
Yeah, it's
When
more
it comes
ancient
from some
form of
sort of like,
communication,
exactly. Like,
Yeah, it does.
communicate with me through this and like however.
It's a much more old-timey thing. You know, they had different, very much more rudimentary versions of it. But
Right.
it's everybody we've encountered that's had a negative experience with one. It's been a real negative experience. Even the person who, and I like him very much. I'm not even going to out him, but a top person in the field who their expertise is in Ouija boards and collects them and does all of that.
Oh wow.
Had severe health problems repeatedly in their life. Oh, it's fine, we'll just play with it, whatever. But they were getting sick, heart problems, back surgeries, all kinds of different really severe health problems all the times they were interacting with these boards. And I have to wonder and I have to question, what were they really messing with? Were they being as careful as they could have been? So I just don't touch them at all. I don't play the Russian roulette. 100 times it could work out fine, but all it takes is that one moment, that one time for Armageddon to release into your house, and for nothing to ever be the same ever again in your life. And I don't want that for people. I definitely don't want that for me.
Oh, no, I get you on that.
Yeah, so I'm very careful with every layer of investigation, all the equipment, when we do spirit box, everything. I am so meticulous, so careful, so driven with the intent, because I don't want anything bad to happen to us as investigators or to my clients.
Messed around with one in junior high a lot.
You did.
With some
a lot of kids.
Some of my friends who messed around with them, and the results of messing around with it is I luckily had this person in my life, but I was raised Episcopal and had an Episcopal priest work every Sunday after church with me for over 10 years to get all of the effects of messing around with that Ouija board out of my life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and finally, and so it's one of those things like that's the consequence, and I was lucky to have that in my life. So finally, it's finally just the fellowship and just the praying and just the anointing, and doing that weekly. And you can think of it as an exorcism that took 10 years.
But like all that just kind of
and it was a very dark time in my life, and I don't talk about it a lot, but I actually think that it absolutely played a hand in the injury when I was 14 years old.
Oh yeah.
And I had an injury there's this haunted factory behind the house I grew up in, and I took my BMX bike down there and just did things that no sane person would do on slick ice at a cement plant, and just popped the spinal disc right out of there. So that took.
He now has a titanium disc.
Yeah, that took a couple of surgery. A couple of years of surgery later, I was okay.
Yeah.
But that was a very dark time in my life, and it was because I was under the influence of this dark entity. This preacher, for whatever reason, saw it and worked with me kind of relentlessly, and. Coincidence or not, he retired after that.
Oh,
he was like, I'm done. I'm done with that. So
he might have been old enough to retire. He's ready to be done with all the crap,
Really neat guy, and now I consider myself a student of all religions, and certainly I always like to say that my true religion is science, but it was
spiritual. Just
but the Episcopal Church had a huge hand in my upbringing. I even went to the Episcopal Church once I moved here to Sacramento, and so without that, I probably wouldn't be here. So, when we tell people not to mess with these things, we mean it. And I was lucky enough to have somebody who was willing to work with me for 10 years to get this thing off of me.
Yeah.
And I still dream about that place. I don't want to dream about it, and it still comes up in my dreams.
That's crazy, though.
Yeah. These things that have lifelong consequences.
Yeah, it's all about safe paranormal, really.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's just a lot of being safe with whatever you do, whatever you explore. If you want to do it on the investigator side, if you want to go to a haunted location because it's fun, hey, I want to go to Winchester, do things smart, do things safe, and just enjoy it. I mean, for me, this can be, exploring my spirituality and learning about all this can be done in a really fun, safe, and good way that everyone can enjoy. It doesn't have to be, done in a way that releases something into your life. If you're bright and smart about it, and you do the right things, you can definitely have a good time kind of learning. Especially a lot of my clients that I come across that are gifted, I love helping them blossom into who they're really supposed to be and seeing like the true version, the beautiful versions of themselves, where they don't feel like they're crazy anymore. Because people who they sense things, they feel things, maybe they hear a little something, whatever. They have all these little clairvoyances or whatever it is. Like, oh my God, am I nuts? Why do I know this about this friend? How did I have this dream about this?
Yeah.
Why did I know about this event was going to happen? Whatever. Once they realize that it's real, they really start to bloom with just within it and then outwardly, and they start to really become the true version of themselves they were always meant to be.
Yeah.
I love watching that. I love seeing that. I have a couple of friends, people that I've mentored over time, and it's just it's so beautiful to see that progression, because it is scary. I closed off my gift for decades. I mean, I was born with it, and I saw my great-grandfather manifest in the hallway when I was a really young kid.
Oh, damn, okay.
Scared the living shit out of me, because I was young. I didn't know what I was, experiencing. Right. And, but later he came to me and explained, oh, no, I used to tuck everybody in, but you weren't supposed to wake up. And I happened to be awake. I had insomnia that night, whatever it was. And so I happened to see that, but going through that my whole life and then just denying it and trying to close it off, it was never going to stay closed off. But being able to finally be like the full version of me is so liberating. And I love being able to share that kind of feeling with other people, because the people who are gifted who go through this throughout their life, they can often feel very isolated and very alone, and they don't know why do they know these things or feel these things. And I don't want people to live like that. I want people just to enjoy it, but also know that when you are this gifted, you have to set these good spiritual boundaries and good spiritual practices. You have to do all the right things in the right way so you can actually not have a problem. Because once you start to open your gift a little bit, then things are more apt to be drawn to you. So you gotta be aware of that.
It's kind of opening a valve or something like that, and allows it it's like whatever's going out, it's like coming in too. Or whatever.
I mean it's much more. It's like you're turning on the open sign of a store,
Okay.
So it's like, oh, you're open for business. So spiritually, I have times where I turn the close sign on. I still am gifted. I still have my ability. I can't really turn it off, but I can say, hey, this is my me time now. I'm not going to engage with all these other energies right now. You guys have fun out there. I'm going to have my space. So when I'm sleeping, when I'm eating, whatever, like showering, certain things, like we're not interrupting these, times. So the spiritual close sign goes on. I've learned, how to ground, to center, to basically put what I call my spiritual bubble on. I envision a big giant bubble on me. I'm like, okay, I'm in my space. Y'all do whatever you're gonna do, but this is my my space. And when we go on investigations that are really heavy, I know how to prepare ahead of time, but I also know how to clear myself after. And I've got so many protective spirits in our house that we live in that nothing's gonna walk through those doors that that's gonna last very long. Either I'm gonna figure out how to get rid of anything that tries to enter our space, or the myriad of all my ancestors that are still there because it's a family property, family home. They're not going to let anybody come in. Yeah. So, I'm comforted in that.
Angel backup, I think.
I've got some backup, but it was also very obvious that, especially after my grandmother passed, that my gift was going to have to start coming back to the forefront, because she started doing things over the course of time after she passed. I was like, wait a minute. Oh yeah, that gift that I keep ignoring, that kept popping up in my youth, but I kept suppressing it, ignoring it. No wonder I was one of the nerdy kids and the outcast kids, but whatever, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
But once she passed, it started creeping back in, and she started giving me messages about different people in my life, and really helped me get where I needed to be, so. I don't know, I like having a good guardian angel.
That's the other thing, is spiritual protection when you're doing this work.
Yes.
That's super important. Part of that is knowing what you're doing and protecting yourself. But if you have some outside protection, so much the better. You do, I do. I have a spirit guide or spirit protector that I picked up from the Native American outside where I grew up. And, that's, didn't even ask for that. They're just like, you know what, follow him around, would So that's important to have that. I'm thankful for that. And we've had a guest, guest people, where like Sierra, guest empaths or gifted people, on certain cases, and I've had them look at me like Amy was one of these.
Oh yeah, she did.
She'll look past me like crap is behind you. So I did have some protection as well, and I think if you're going to do some of the heavy cases that we do, that's kind of a must.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
To get in contact with either your spirit guides or your guardian angels, or who do you have around you? Who's your backup?
Yeah, you need it's like the Star Trek shields you're doing. You gotta be able to say shields up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like I got something around me. I don't know who or what it is, but I feel like I got something. But another question on that, because you say like your grandfather or sometimes your grandmother.
My grandmother was around me a lot.
So if they do move on and go to heaven, are they allowed to come back in some way to kind of protect housing? Because I've never heard that side, but to me, I'm like, I believe in God and everything. Yes. I'm just like, I don't know how all that works.
So
and I just let him do his thing.
It's super,
it is. You know what I mean?
We're not all gonna know everything.
Yeah.
There's no way we'll ever know everything. But yes, we have free will here in our physical bodies. But we also have free will in our soul body. And yes, these souls, like my grandmother, she has definitely gone into the light, into heaven. She has been transitioned. She is healed from everything that she had here. She is now an angelic force. But her free will choice, hey, like, you know, what do you want to do as you grow and learn up here? Well, I still want to look after my granddaughter. Like, she made the conscious choice of that as something that she wants to be involved in. Does she occasionally go take vacations to other places? I think she does. But I have other guardians or protectors, you know, other relatives that protect me too. But they have free will. They have the ability to choose what they do in their afterlife existence. Because once the meat suit is gone, our soul energy is so beautiful and wonderful and still carries on.
Yeah.
So it'll continue to vibrate in that higher, more beautiful, divine frequency. But it then has a larger kind of scope and free range of what it can do, where it can go. Can they do everything for us? No. They can't fix everything for us. They can't, you know, intervene on every single thing. But they can definitely have an interaction. Sometimes for some people it's more like a long distance phone call, you know, the connection with them.
Yeah.
It's a little harder to receive the messages and feel that they're there. But no, that they absolutely have the free will. God gave us all free will. And
right.
He doesn't take it away suddenly when we drop the meat suit. This is just one chapter of a beautiful storybook of the actual soul energy that we are, that God created. And so we're learning a whole bunch here. We need to do this chapter. This is valuable. We gain a hell of a lot here. But every chapter after that is even more beautiful and even richer.
Yeah.
And so when our loved ones use their free will to connect with us here, they're giving us a little bit of just that light, a little bit of that blessing. We get that moment of that sort of divine connection through them as well, which I think is kind of special.
Gotcha.
And I the more the merrier. I've got a whole bunch of loved ones that come check on me all the time. So I'll take all of them.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah,
even friends of people.
Exactly. And they're not trapped in some other place away from us.
Right.
We're not so separated as we all think that we are from, I mean, everything all around us it's all just, you know, different vibration levels, different megahertz, all that kind of stuff going on. We think of it as like it's like a definitive concrete layers, and it definitely is not. It's much more permeable, I think. What about you? You would think so, I guess.
No, it definitely is. I always joke that when Melissa gets up to the pearly gates that they're going to have to call a supervisor.
I don't know about that.
But yeah, it's I look at it from a different point of view. I look at it from, I mean, obviously I have the spiritual side to me. I would have to do what I do, but I also look at it from the scientific point of view, and quantum physics gets into all of this. So
there's that too.
So quantum physics kind of teaches us that what we can see and sense with our five senses is a very small slice of what's actually going on.
Yeah.
And there's a number of experiments that actually demonstrate that. The crazy one is the one with the light beams. They'll put it through water and they'll put it through slots like in cardboard, and they behave the way they expect them to behave. And what they find out is that the act of observing them changes what they do.
Yeah. I've seen this one.
It's
really an interesting thing
like,
too.
Just the mere fact that there's an observer. If there's no, they can set a camera there, and then people will say, well, the camera's observing. If there's no human interaction there, it changes the way the particles. Why is that? And so I think there's so much more that we don't understand, that it's a foregone conclusion in my mind that the spiritual world and the metaphysical world is going to meet and marry the scientific world, and it's all just going to be the same thing at some point. But science isn't there yet.
Yeah, I can agree with you on that. I kind of have that thought with a lot of different things, and it's kind of like you take science fiction and then like fantasy at some point kind of can merge, because it's like what you see to someone else is like magic compared to whatever. I mean, it's like, because it's like alchemists like led to like actual chemistry and all that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what I think's pretty wild. And you think like bioluminescence and like do whatever, people would be like, oh, it's like magic, and you break it down to science. I mean, you have science to explain it, but it's like it's still magic in a way. But once you understand,
well, take our cell phones back to the 1700s. That would be seen like witchcraft, you know.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So it's eventually all this stuff will catch up to each other, but it doesn't take the beauty out of the spiritual element of it either. Even if we can scientifically explain a lot of the things, the explanation still is that, hey, something spiritual is happening.
Yeah.
So that's why we very much say we marry science and spirituality together, and literally.
Yeah.
You know, that it just, we want these things to kind of belong together so people can get that complete picture and the complete answer of what the hell's going on in my house, you know? 'Cause
Gotcha.
it can be a little intimidating, to say the least.
Yeah.
So obviously, so do you have any questions about our fun malarkey here? Like,
Yeah, since like you pointed out, let's see what we got going on, if you want to
go ahead
explain
and
what we,
nerd it out, honey. You're the
yeah.
science nerd.
Well, it can be broken down into really two different categories. We measure electricity, whether it's going to be electromagnetic electricity, which is basically like AC power. It's electricity that is alternating current because of a magnetic field. So AC power, electromagnetic energy, really the same thing. And when you get right down to it, then there's direct current or static electricity, and we can measure. I'm not static today. Okay, you are. But
okay.
so those are the two types of excuse me. Those are the two types of electricity that we measure. There's a lot of different reasons for that. And then we measure environmental data, which like this measures. This is just a thermometer. It tells us the temperature, 66 degrees on the floor. This measures temperature and gives show you cold spots and hot spots. This thought I had that turned on.
No.
And go through Fahrenheit and Celsius. Has a EMF meter just like this built into it.
Real quick, how far, how close does a ghost have to get to that, or energy or whatever, for it to kind of go off? If say something was by the door right now, would it pick it up?
Possibly. It just depends. We don't really know. That's a really good question, because we don't really know the answer to it. Something like this.
I feel like they have to get pretty close, right?
Something like this, it has to be right up on it to set it off.
Okay.
It has to be right up, because that's the proximity sensor.
Yeah.
I've had the air conditioning kick on and trip the air pressure sensor. So
Okay.
So it doesn't mess with environmental. It doesn't
But
necessarily
that
have
is
to be
cool,
right
so
up on
that
it.
it picks up, yeah.
Exactly. That's why we use so many different things, because we want to have different ways of capturing that information.
Yeah, and what people rightly ask us a lot of times is like, great, so you can measure different kinds of electricity, and you can measure all these environmental things. Even has a seismometer built into it there, and you can all this environmental data. You're ghost hunters. Why do you care about any of that? And the answer I always like to give for that is the thunderstorm analogy.
Okay.
Especially if you're in the mountains. If you've ever been in the mountains and one of those afternoon thunderstorms kind of just kind of boils in there, and it goes from a nice day to you feel the static electricity in the air.
Yeah.
There's just a charge in the air. The temperature can drop very suddenly. The humidity can drop very suddenly or change very suddenly. Actually, the humidity will increase. Air pressure changes. Everything changes as a thunderstorm moves in there, and you get the rain, and of course thunder, you get electromagnetic energy. Well, when spiritual energy, whether it is the spiritual remnants of a human that still has consciousness, or just another type of spiritual energy, whether it's non-human or it's residual, whatever it is, that moves through a space. It's the same exact thing on a much more subtle scale.
Yeah.
It's a thunderstorm that we could, with our five senses, if we sense it at all, it's going to be the hairs on the back of our neck standing up, or the hairs on our arm standing up, or just a feeling of something's not quite right. But it's energy, all the same. And it's an exciting time to be a paranormal investigator, because we can measure that now with these instruments. It's very subtle levels of energy that somebody who is in construction wouldn't care about one microtesla. 1 to 10 microteslas. Somebody, they wouldn't care about that, the smallest level of energy. But it allows us to see there's energy in a space somewhere where it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And we have anomalies going off. We had the meters pegged underneath the guy's house, and there was nothing there but dirt. And the guy had a curse on him.
Damn.
You know, and so the meters can actually, you know, and I looked.
It can narrow things
there was
down.
nothing but wood and dirt there. There was nothing there that could be setting it off.
So how did you find out he had a curse on though? Was there an object buried under there?
So that's an excellent question, and so there was some feathers and stuff. It was kind of weird,
Okay.
but that is where
offering or something.
that is where we put together what we call the layered approach. None of this is a smoking gun. If any of this is a smoking gun, it's Melissa. The meters just sort of tell us where to point Melissa. But what we do is a layered approach.
Yeah.
We have the we have the meters that show, hey, there's an energy anomaly in this space.
Yeah.
You know, and we can measure that. We can demonstrate that. We can film it.
Yeah.
And then there's environmental data. The air pressure is changing at the same time, so we add that to the case. Why was the air pressure there? Why was there a cold spot there while this energy is going off? What's this mist floating past that we caught on camera while this was happening?
Maybe the bell round goes off.
What we said we were going to cleanse this place, and a voice at the same time. I'm being facetious here, but this actually did happen.
We
had the spirit boxes that we're going to cleanse the crap out of this place. What do you think of that? They said, "Try it, bitch."
Oh, man. It can't happen hard, man.
Yeah,
it wasn't happy with me.
By the time you present all the
I
audio,
cleansed it anyway.
by the time you present all the audio data, all the video proof, all the meter collection, and the information she could not possibly have known, we have at least one case, if not more, that I can prove in a court of law that something paranormal was happening there, and that it was absolutely supernatural, and I can prove that.
Yeah, there's multiple layers happening.
So that's a layered approach. So back to the question.
Yeah.
Using that layered approach and all the different data that we gathered on that case, we were able to put together and talking to the client. A big part of it's the story, you know.
I get you. Either way, I'm just wondering, like, how did
he had come upon. I'm not sure he was telling us the whole truth. That happens sometimes too.
Yeah, some people. I wish they would be just very, very, very transparent with us because it would make it life easier. Sometimes they hide things.
And I looked it up on the news too, but he had, in his story, he had come upon a Native American spot that had been desecrated recently.
Okay.
And we're not going to get too specific, but I looked it up, and it was not only a Native American spot. This was central to their entire belief system. It was central to their entire culture. It was the holiest of holy grounds for this Native American spirit. And whether he was there wrong time, wrong place, or
he actually took something,
or he took something from the site, something got onto him. And there's a term for it. We'll call it a shapeshifter because I'm given to understand we're not supposed to say the actual word.
I think I know which one.
Yeah, but he had one of those, and I'm fairly sure. And that's not conclusive, but that's sort of my prognosis.
Based on a lot of the different things.
All the different data that we were able to collect. I saw his eyes go gray for a second.
Oh, okay.
I was able to pick up, like we had the meters, like we're pointing it at dirt, and the meters go. You know the scene in the Back to the Future where he turns up the all the meters just went thump 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 thump.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. Damn.
That's not okay.
By the time we were done though, and especially done with the blessing,
You did a heavy
everything
cleansing.
they felt so much better. Their mood was better. The energy felt better. I don't even think we were getting nearly as many.
No, and that was one of the cases where that was one of the cases where we told them you need to contact this tribe and have them come out and do a Native American blessing of your land. You need to, and they will not do it for free. To have a Native American drumming here would be ideal. Those are amazing if you've ever been part of one.
Oh yeah,
that's something that we.
I don't
know.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't know how to play drums like that. I wouldn't even try.
No, it's very specific for the tribe.
That's a cultural thing. They have to do it. And I told him, I said, if you blow us off and you don't do it, this thing's going to come back.
Yeah.
You need to contact the tribe and pay them whatever they want. And get it done, or your life is just not going to go on the way you want it to go. You're going to have trouble for the rest of your life if you don't do this. And we left it. I know that he did.
Oh, okay, that's my question. If you knew that he had contacted.
By the time we left, he was like, we're calling tomorrow.
I love the clients that actually take our advice and listen and do what, I understand sometimes there's issues with certain resources and that kind of thing. Most of the homework we give people is much easier than that. It's much more low grade, and I want people to follow the instructions because I want everyone to have success and happiness. And sometimes we go into houses and they don't need to do any aftercare. Not everybody does.
Sometimes you just need
depending on the energy that's there, and if anybody in the house is gifted in any way, sometimes there is a little homework to do. And I just want them, the ones that do need that, to actually do it. And 9 times out of 10, they do.
We heard from them for a week later, and they said they were doing great, and that they could schedule a Native American blessing.
Yeah.
So when you'd done it up to then had gotten it popped out or out there.
We've had other cases.
We were able to keep it controlled long enough for them to get the other resources. So
we put out the fire, as it were. But you gotta fix the electrical, man.
I get you.
Yeah. So it was kind of a neat case. And,
yeah.
Everything we do.
That was recent too.
Yeah, I love all the stuff that we do. I like to, get out there and help as much as we can. But we are getting better at actually carving out time for our stuff and our own needs. Because life happens, life comes up, and so we are getting better at scheduling, like holiday time, birthday time, vacation time. We're getting better at managing our own replenishment time because we can't actually successfully help and heal the community if we're constantly burning the candle at both ends.
Yeah, I was saying if your battery's drained out.
Gotta take some time off for us.
It's not smart, it's not healthy.
That's what the New York trip was about. We just went and had fun for a week.
We did go have some vacation, and just it's nice to be able to do little things here and there, and so I'm getting much better about listening to my own advice that I give my clients.
Can't pour from an empty cup. You tell people that all the time, and then you try and do it, and you learn not to do that.
I know. I preach to everyone, and I'm like, but I can do everything. Bullshit. No, I need quiet time too. I need recharging time too. So I get out in the garden, I take care of things out there. It's very helpful. It's very healing, and so
cool.
It's just nice to be able to share about what we do and who we are, and like we were talking earlier. You've already interviewed John, kind of some about paranormal. But I don't know. You talked about like some of the martial arts stuff
some
too.
of the martial arts.
Yeah.
Like he and I both have like a film background in those and stuff, so we talked about that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But like I say, the podcast we talked about like anything that's like how it like goes like that like kind of reminds me too, because like I try to keep as many questions in here as I can, so I like to bounce back and forth. There's some questions I want to ask about that thing here too, but I want to ask this other one. I got some other ones I'll ask too, but like I said, we'll keep going. But we were talking about like the stones and stuff. What's a good stone, I guess, or rock, whatever you want to call it, to keep on you for, I don't know, what, like positivity, like what's a good stone just to keep on you, like to have a good, like, for whatever energy?
So it depends what you're kind of going for. Labradorite is a lovely one for auric protection, so it'll keep you protected. It's got a good positive vibration. Rose quartz with labradorite would be great for bringing more love and that positivity and love in your space, along with the protection. I tend to carry a whole bunch of other ones for, depending on what case I'm on. I carry black tourmaline a lot of the time because I call that the coffee filter of all the stones, because it kind of, it transmutes negativity and gets rid of negativity away from you. So it filters, because negative stuff is going to happen around us in our lives. It's
no matter what.
Yeah, it's a human existence. So black tourmaline I have found to be really great for just transmuting things and making it from like something negative and then it comes out positive. Amethyst can be good for some people, but it can also open psychic ability in some people. So it's
interesting.
It's hit or miss, but it's a good positive one. Tiger's eye is really good for grounding.
I was just going to say tiger, you read my mind.
Yeah, tiger's eye is really, really good for grounding. It's also a very nice one. But there's, really, if you kind of go into some of these rock shops, there's one off of Power Inn called Rock Mama Gallery. Love that place. It's a really cool place. They even have things labeled in ways where it'll like say some of the metaphysical properties it can give you.
Interesting, alright.
I go for like things I'm attracted to as a stone. If I just feel attracted to it, like calcite's really good, citrine, if you feel a draw to it, it's probably because your soul needs it. And then you can see what the properties are.
Interesting.
Maybe you need malachite, or maybe you need, it just depends what you're needing at the time. But I find that labradorite's a real nice one that kind of gives you sort of an overall protective. Oh, and the meter agreed with me. Thank you for agreeing.
So what's that now that set it off, you think?
It was an odd temperature fluctuation. It shouldn't have happened because there was nothing that's changed in there.
And the AC didn't kick on or anything.
No, I don't think the AC's on. I don't think it's on a draft.
No,
so
it
don't know why.
So
pick up something, I guess. All right, we'll say that.
Usually especially when I'm doing like private readings for people, if
they go off,
a meter will go off when I'm saying like giving specific advice to somebody. It'll go off like.
What was it that you had said though? What was the rock or the mineral?
That labradorite is a good all-arounder for everything. So
oh, okay. Well, I guess that's good all around for.
But there's a lot of different crystals that you can use for a lot of different purposes. I mean, they all have some, for bringing love into, your heart, into your space. Or if you have certain areas of your life that you're trying to heal, energetically, you've had either heartbreak, so maybe something for the heart chakra, like some sort of green stone or a pink stone would be good for that area. Or maybe you're trying to increase with your spiritual or psychic abilities, so stuff that would be good for the third eye, the crown chakra, if the people who believe in the chakra system, which that goes back quite a long way. The belief system within like chakras and the energy meridians through the body, that goes through different cultures as well. Okay, so that's something that's widely practiced. So you can have stones that relate to those different energies. But I find that I collect rocks based on what makes me happy and what feels right. I just like, hey, I need this. This needs to come home with me. I want it. I found this just gorgeous specimen of the gem fair that was recently at the Scottish Rite Festival. I think the next one's not till May of next year, but I found this wonderful specimen of a pink amethyst geode. And it's like this mauvey, purpley pink color, and you can like see inside of it, and it spoke to me.
Yes, Scottish Rite Temple, you mean?
Oh yeah, what did I say?
You said Scottish Rite Festival.
Well, it's the Gem Fair Festival, but at the end, it's the Scottish Rite Temple. But it just, oh my God, I had to have it, I needed it, I wanted it, but I looked at the price tag, I was like, that's not gonna happen. And the lady was like, well, it's the last day of the Gem Fair, so we can cut a deal. And
it's always good to be able to.
So it was like, I can bring it home, and like you sometimes just know when things belong in your space and what.
I follow. I feel that a lot.
But if you want something for protection or to bring good energy, obviously, like I said, black tourmaline is a good one to just filter out anything negative away from, your whole body and soul. So.
Got it. Hey, y'all. Hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. Real quick, we're going to have a coffee break, refill, and all that. But in the meantime, I figured I'd talk to you about my book, Bluesman. Here's the paperback available at Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com, pretty much anywhere you can get, the books. But you might be saying to yourself, Chris, that book looks a little bit rough around the edges. Well, the reason is because this is the actual one I used when I was reading the audio book. And if you're looking for the audio book, it's available on Audible, on Apple Audiobooks. And I think Amazon, you can find it there too. Go to Audible, it's all that stuff. So you can find it there, iTunes, all that. It's ready for you. So anyway, check out Bluesman. Get either the paperback, or you can go to Audible, Apple Audiobooks. God, I don't know why you want to say Apple Podcasts and all that bullshit. You can find this podcast on Apple Podcasts. But anyway, Bluesman, Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com, or like I say, you go to Audible or go to Apple Audiobooks. And then I think maybe Amazon.com, you can get it there too. But iTunes, all that shit. You know where to go, people. I think you're computer savvy and all this kind of stuff. So anyway, Bluesman, get it. And now let's get back to the podcast. Thank you.
Technology is fun. It's really neat when you get these readings, because the readings themselves are like, okay, what it does is it makes us ask more questions.
Like I said, it's the later approach, and it's super important, like I said before, to know what this equipment measures and know how it works. Perfect example here, and I don't even have this one on, is this is our tri-field meter, which actually measures 4 things. I don't know why they call it a tri-field meter. I've never been able to figure that out. I guess quad meter was taken, but you always wanted to do this. And I'm getting a slight reading of EMF. It could be a lot of things. You probably got an internet or a TV signal.
Yeah.
So it's probably picking up on that. But and I don't know if you can see it, but if I flip it like this, then that meter will peg.
Okay, yeah, it goes.
Yeah, and so you will see.
So you either have it flat or you have it all the way up, one or the other.
And I get really, and that in scientific terms, it's measuring the X or the Y axis. You can use it perfectly vertical,
alright, cool.
perfectly vertical, or perfectly horizontal to measure the XY axis. That is how it's designed to work. If you do this crap all the time, here I'll do it for the benefit of the camera.
You get false readings.
And so you will see people on paranormal shows doing this shit all the time. I think we can cuss a little bit.
Yeah.
You see them doing this shit all the time, like, oh my God, what's happening? This is a lot of activity. Well, what the meter is actually measuring is the Earth's magnetic field. So when we switch between the X and the Y axis, and you have it set to EMF or magnetic fields, it will measure for you the difference in the XY axis on the Earth's magnetic field. It's actually super interesting, but it can be used to falsify data if either you don't know what you're doing or you want to present an intentionally false picture.
Yeah.
You can falsify. These are tools, and you can use them to falsify data very easily. All I have to do with this is put my finger on it if it's on, and
Am I giving off EMF?
I
always worry about
batteries are dead on
that. If I start giving off EMF, I worry about that.
Well, I mean, we all have our own little electromagnetic field, though, right?
We do, but we're not supposed to spike meters.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Look! Oh my God! We're getting oh my God! It's a ghost! It's a ghost! No, my finger's on it. Very easy to fake. We would never do that.
You have to know how to break
We're conscientious, but so I'm watching for how they.
Didn't you get a reading off of me when I was doing a reading?
I have before, yeah.
You got like 8 microteslas? Yes, I think I'm giving off EMF today.
I can measure your aura. Notice I'm holding it horizontal. So you
I was like, am I
So
giving
also
off?
you can't measure or.
now that is
Now what's
interesting.
going off now?
That's what that one. The
K2
K2's going off, and I wasn't touching it.
I reset it?
I would reset it. I'd actually debunk that because it was probably felt cold to it after I had my finger on it.
Oh, maybe so.
So I would probably debunk that.
Now it's reset.
Yeah.
But you see, I like how you're doing that too, because that's like a real scientific way. Is like trying to prove yourself being wrong. It's like so you can't prove yourself being like
Exactly.
wrong.
As the science geek in the group, it is my job.
Yeah.
It is my job to call bullshit, and I do it all the time.
And you do actually a really good job.
And there's a really good reason.
Keeps it honest.
A really good reason for that as paranormal investigators, because when I can't, that means something.
Yep.
When I can't call
like
bullshit,
you're
saying.
if everything
there's nothing else you can say that it is.
'Cause
Okay, now what is it?
It's usually not paranormal. We found a bad wiring. We found a
bad alarm clock.
A bad alarm clock. Hello. I still don't know why that's going off, but
now, could it be I feel we have a good positive energy? Could it just be reading?
Well, that's measuring
chance?
temperature.
Okay.
That alarm is a temperature.
All right.
So it's measuring, and that absolutely could be paranormal. Maybe a spirit is messing with it. That if it keeps going off, you start to wonder why. Yeah. But a lot of times it's not. So that's why I say a bad house wiring harness, a bad alarm system, a bad alarm clock. We had one case. We had one case in which the guy's house was bugged, and we picked it up. He had worked on a very sensitive government project, and then retired. And
they were just making sure.
And they had his house bugged. He got pissed off. He had to leave for a second. He wasn't mad at us, but he had to.
You guys weren't subpoenaed on anything, were you?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because they figured all those crazy ghost hunters are wandering around this guy's house. Who gives a shit? We weren't that important, I guess.
Yeah. So it's I've never had any problem with the government doing this, luckily. So
no, they don't really care what we were doing. So
that is actually a nice segue into one of the things I always like to mention on when we do paranormal. One of the areas that I prefer, and we've been asked to advise on these. One of the areas of the paranormal that I prefer not to go there. Mm-hmm. I prefer not to advise or be called in on those cases are UFOs and aliens. absolutely believe they're real. It's not that I don't believe them. It's
And we've helped a few clients that
what
have
are we
had
really
people
supposed
issue.
to do?
Yeah.
They're not spirits, you know. If they want in your house, they're gonna come and shout. I don't know if you've ever seen The Fourth Kind.
Is that the one with Mia Jovovich or whatever?
I think so. Yeah.
Alaska. Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, the Alaska one. Yeah, that show is scary as hell.
Yeah, that's a spooky one.
Yeah, and
We're willing to talk to people about them as far as
Yeah,
to
we'll-
comfort. We have
don't
advice
expect us
for
to
them.
fix it.
I can't keep ET out of your house, but
Yeah, we just.
I actually do have some things that techniques that they can cope with it better.
Yeah.
That's about as far as I can take it. I can't stop the aliens.
I will-
I have coping techniques.
I will
for them.
advise groups that they can join.
Yes.
Books that they can read, so you
Support
can.
groups.
I can help them understand the phenomenon better. I can absolutely. I will.
Technically, moldavite in the house is supposed to keep them away, but I don't know that it really does.
Yeah, you know, and they also like strawberry ice cream. I don't know if either one of those is true. Yeah.
Moldavite is supposed to be I don't know. It's a hard deal with stone. It's got a really I don't know. Wherever it comes from is supposed to be extraterrestrial, but they don't like it. I don't know that that's necessarily true.
It's on the periodic table. There's only one element that is not on the periodic table that is not of this earth, because all of this comes from.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying, it's all from space.
Yeah.
It's something about
We're
the
in space.
The
It's
whole.
something about the vibration of it, but I don't. Yeah, it's mainly the support groups and things like that help people through those types of phenomena.
Yeah, if you've seen the shows about Bob Lazar, a lot of people a lot of people think the reason the government is so on his back is that he is in possession. And I forget the name of the.
Oh, it's like element 113.
Element 113. That's it. Yeah.
It's 113 or 115.
It's not
like
on the
that.
It's not on the periodic table, and
They
it behaves
discovered recently or something.
Yeah, and it behaves in ways that are contrary to the laws of physics.
Yeah.
That's not good.
And I heard some other what was it? The Japanese physicist or something like that. He was talking about. He's like, well, as far as we know, element 113 doesn't really do that. But then, bless you.
Thank you.
But then I recently learned it's like what is it? Because you can find it in part of near the Dead Sea where there's plutonium or whatever. But there's some mineral that it's plutonium by itself isn't harmful or radioactive or whatever. But you add it to some other element or whatever, then it becomes. So I was like, well, I wonder if that's the same concept. It's you have to add something else to it. It by itself doesn't do anything, but you need that element to get to the next level.
Yeah.
So that's just a recent thought that I had, but I didn't. But I just recently learned that about plutonium. I think that's what it was.
Plutonium and uranium.
Yeah. Or maybe it was uranium.
The two don't mix.
Yeah, they're not friends.
And they have to be super, super high grade. We probably don't want to talk about how to make a nuclear bomb.
No.
I mean, it's probably in the science book somewhere, but who knows?
It's absolutely fascinating the way it works. So, what happens when you disassemble an atom? It's so interesting, and I had it explained to me by what's the guy's name? He's always on TikTok. Vince. You know, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he explained it like for every electron for every electron that comes apart in an atom, it produces two more, and the two more grab onto the two electrons for the next atom, and the next atom, and the next atom. That's a very layman's way of explaining the chain reaction that happens once you take apart an atom. You have these electrons and neutrons that are looking to attach to other particles, and it causes a cascading effect as they grab onto other atoms and other atoms and other atoms. Causes the cascading effect that causes the nuclear reaction. And then if you can control that instead of having a big blow up, you can control that reaction. What you have is you have a nuclear reactor.
Yeah.
And so talking about nuclear power, this is kind of an odd segue. There's a movie I saw recently called The China Syndrome. If you haven't seen it, see it. It's an older movie.
Okay.
Really good. Really good movie, and it's about. I don't know that it's a true story, so I'm not going to say it's a true story because I don't think it is. But it's almost presented. It's one of those movies presented as what if.
Yeah, I get you.
And it makes you think because it's this journalist that is there at the wrong time in the wrong place, and the whole facility almost goes up, and they play it off like it's nothing.
Yeah.
They're like, oh no, that happens all the time. Don't worry about it. No biggie. We have everything under control. And like there's this one guy going, nope, that's not supposed to happen ever.
Yeah, it's like we just almost aided on that.
Well, there's this whistleblower,
Not good.
and it may be a true story, but I think it's more like a what if.
Yeah.
You know, but it's Jane Fonda's in it, so it gives you the time period. Absolutely fascinating how, like, if you don't really know, how something works, and people are like, completely safe. Trust me, it's completely safe. How many times have we heard that? Where you have one, where you have one guy going, not really. Right?
It's always the money dude trying to protect the investment. It's like, oh yeah, it's all good here.
Yeah, right.
And there's someone like, look, we gotta work on something a little bit before we go back.
You might want to think about this before you do it.
Yeah.
Also, don't build nuclear plants on the San Andreas Fault.
Oh yeah,
Same movie.
Yeah.
Oh, it was in the same
movie.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
That
cool.
seems like good advice.
That's not a good place to build a nuclear plant.
Jesus
They always seem to want to do that though. It's like, let's put it something like right here on a fault line or whatever. Oh, the land's for cheap. I wonder why. Yeah. It's going to be in a different place after a while.
Right, exactly. We learned in geology class, it's like the stupidest place to build a house is on a hilltop overlooking the ocean. Because that hilltop's not going to be there very long, geologically speaking.
Yeah, not forever.
Yeah.
Like
if you could get 100 years out of it, you're all right. But eventually, that domino.
It's gonna start, creeping this way.
Yeah, like the Morrow Rock, and you have the rocks on. They're really pretty and everything. Especially if you get up in Oregon, you have the rocks out in the ocean. And the little just looks like somebody dropped a big boulder in the ocean. Well, that used to be the hillside, and you can draw a line along the rocks and connect it with the coastline, and you see that used to be a hill.
Yeah,
and the ocean's eroded that over time, and you realize that it's like a really bad place to build a house.
Yeah, after time. Talking about some of that, because that's making me think of like the northern part of California. I just recently learned about these cats. Have you ever heard of like the Dark Watchers, supposedly in the hillsides of California? I guess they're in Big Sur, and then I don't know what they're down to. There's a mountain range too that they call them, but the Dark Watchers. I guess you guys ever heard of those?
We may have seen them.
I'll just explain real
quick.
what they're supposed to be, and supposedly back to like some Spanish explorer even talked about seeing them. But as far as I know, no one has really had like a bad encounter with them. It's just that they like say it's either like someone like in a hooded thing, or it's just like a black figure. Maybe they don't really have a hood, but all you see is like almost like someone's like the sun's almost behind them, so you just see the shadow.
Yeah.
But it's like if you go to approach them or whatever, they just disappear. Like they don't screw with anybody.
We're both thinking of the same case, and
Garden Valley,
it scared the hell out of me.
Okay, let me.
But they didn't come up to us.
No,
Exactly.
So
where was this? And what
this was in Garden Valley. It was a personal friend. And he was having all sorts of paranormal problems. We actually have a saying in our group, smudge like Mike, because this guy was smudging to the point where he set off every smoke detector in the house.
Really?
He had red glaring eyes going in, looking into his house. And all sorts of paranormal problems.
He also had UFO activity on the
Had health problems and UFO activity, and one of
and
the
ghosts and everything else.
he just had everything going. This was a trifecta of just like every paranormal problem you can think of. This guy had it. His dog would run off the land and stuff. Actually, we have a number of Geiger counters that we can use. Almost never use them. Yeah. They're good for military locations or ex-military locations, things like that. So there's certain we were able to use one to determine that a person's house in the Sierras was built on a uranium deposit, and it didn't mean that they had to tear their house down. They put down lead mats. Problem solved. So they do come into play, but not very often. Paranormal energy does not produce gamma radiation.
Thankfully.
Contrary to popular belief in Ghostbusters, it doesn't work that way. But it's fun. But we have them because it can come up. Well, this guy had a clearing where nothing would grow on his land. It was this unnatural, perfectly round clearing where nothing would grow and no trees. And I took the Geiger counter out there and got an unnaturally high reading, everything. So we We did a cleansing and a gridding, and we just threw everything at it in our toolbox to cleanse the hell out of this place and to give it, just infuse a lot of positive energy, a lot of the holy water. We used the altar dust, which was something that we kind of keep in our back pocket as a last resort. And we just infused as much love and energy and just positivity in the places we could, and we just did the best blessing that we could for a seriously messed up piece of land. And we told him to move. And he eventually did. We told him this is a temporary fix that might get things to calm down for a while. You can use that temporary period of peace and calm to figure out how you're going to get the hell out of here, because that's what you need to do. And so we left that night. We're packing up the gear, and I just stopped dead in my tracks and I looked over on the fence line. And we went back later and tried to debunk it. We couldn't. There's nothing that would look like that. Okay. And we're along the fence line, and here's about, I don't know what, 8, 10 figures in black hoods.
And kind of different heights and sizes.
They look like they're about to form like a coven group or something, you know. But there was there
was nobody there.
These tall figures in black hoods. Hand on the Bible, I swear this happened. And I had to be like, I'm just dead in my tracks.
I could not figure out what it was.
I'm like, you guys, am I the only one seeing this? Am I just tired and hallucinating, or is there a bunch of people in hoods staring at us?
And how far away would you say that they are? They were walking by and stopped and watched you?
No, they just sort of appeared. I noticed it while I was putting the gear. Very, very dark out. And there was some lights from the other houses, which was the other house probably a quarter mile away. There was enough light from the other house that there was orange glow behind them, and they're just sitting there staring at us. And I'd say they were abnormally tall. I'd say they were at least
that's part of the thing. They're supposed to be like really
6
tall
or 7
things.
feet tall. So they're abnormally tall, big long black hoods, and they're all just staring at us. And I looked at John and Melissa and I said, I don't know what's happening, but we need to get the hell out of here. We need to get the hell out of here now.
And we did.
As soon as we got the gear packed up, it was like, Scotty, we need warp 9. It was one of the few cases that I've ever driven out of just like, warp 9, let's get the hell out of here. I couldn't have been. It was one of those places where it was a while before you even got back to pavement.
Oh, okay, you're in the woods.
We were off in the boonies. Yeah, as soon as I got on the pavement, it was like. I remember you told me it was like we're on the highway. Let it ease down. We're going like 80 down this mountain road. You're like, honey.
Okay, we're safe.
Take it down 1,000.
And did they end up like moving it or?
They just stood there the whole time.
They just watched, because that's like what I'm saying. That's supposedly what they do. Is
they turned and watched us leave. That's the thing. As I was looking at them, they turned and they watched us leave. And I was like, I told Melissa, I was like, we will come if he needs to come back, we'll come back, but only during the daytime. I'm never going back there at night. And that's almost no place.
It was a little creepy.
There's almost no place I've ever said that I've said we will not come back here. I can't, we're here to help. So there's almost no place I've ever said. But I told him, I was like, you need to move. You need to move as soon as possible. And your piece of land is beyond help.
Well, I was going to say that. Do you think this piece of land was cursed? Because I've heard about that, I guess we don't want to say that word or whatever. I say it all the time, so I don't worry about the shapeshifter, blah 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 at the ranch. So, in Utah or whatever, that's supposedly
Skinwalker Ranch. Some places are just beyond help, and I don't want to burn them down because you don't want forest fires and everything. Some places are just best left alone.
It left to be the land, not to be lived on.
They shouldn't be inhabited. There are certain places that should not be inhabited. There's the site of a prison in New Mexico that should not be inhabited.
And that's the one where I guess the blood always keeps. There was a big riot or something years ago. And the blood always keeps showing. It's we clean this, but we can't get rid of the blood. It's always.
There are those locations like that that nobody should be there.
I grew up on one.
Leave it alone.
That factory. You'd think they bulldozed the factory. It's surrounded by 200 acres of farm field. So you'd think they would just bulldoze it and use the land for something else. This factory's been allowed to be reclaimed by nature for 50 years.
Because nobody wants to mess with it.
Nobody wants to screw with it. The energy there is so bad, you felt it.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't get out
That was another one where you're like, we need to leave right now. It's not happy that I'm here.
Yeah, whatever was in there did not care.
I wanted to show you the factory that I always talk about. I wanted to show it to you.
I could see it. I just
Interesting.
You had
Is there some?
And she's brave. She doesn't ever get afraid.
Yeah.
You know, she might get startled, but she
I
doesn't.
knew to respect the energy that I wasn't intended to be there.
Yeah,
so I respected what.
That's what you told me. You said it's not happy that I'm here and we need to leave. And we were trespassing, but I grew up trespassing there, so it's a little different.
Yeah. When you're like a teenager,
I would have told the farmers that are like, hey, as the
I grew up here.
as a kid, they grew up here, and it would have been okay.
Yeah, it would have been fine.
But they know who I am, so.
The living would have been fine with us.
Don't trespass.
The dead were not okay with
We've
it.
almost never done that, actually, but that was one time because I grew up there. It was a little bit different.
Yeah, it's abandoned. Everyone's gonna be like, might not want to be here because whatever's in this thing's gonna. The cops don't care that you're here, but they're just gonna warn you about that thing probably.
Yeah. You don't need to be around these parts, but yeah.
No, that's a whole the history of that, what we call the block plant and the house that I grew up in. That's a whole separate podcast.
Gotcha.
That's a whole story in and of itself. Yeah.
But so again, like, and you said where was the land at where you saw like the Watchers and the dude?
This was here in the Sierras.
In Garden
Sierra.
Valley.
Okay,
Garden
that's
Valley.
like
Garden
around.
Valley, yeah.
I guess like we're somewhere around. I don't know, somewhere along the coast is what I.
Yeah, this was not. It was more inland.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's like the description of them 100%. So who knows where they? I don't know
It
how
sounds
they
like
work.
they probably have areas where they just frequent for whatever reason.
Maybe. Yeah.
You know, whatever they think they need to be watching.
Yeah, because like I
I
said,
guess.
they do that. But like you said with this dude, he was having like UFOs.
He was having everything there. He was having aliens. He was having abduction dreams. He was having
bad negative.
red
paranormal.
eyes looking into the house. He was having scratching noises. He was having like everything between the Amityville and the fourth kind. This guy had happening to him.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm glad to go somewhere more positive now.
He's got a ton of health problems too, but he's
doing
getting better. He's getting better.
Yeah, no, oddly enough, things are
So we
improving.
just told him straight up, and I don't ever like to tell anybody this. There's been very few cases that we've ever said.
Amy's had to tell people on the Dead Files.
I think Amy does it more often than we do, but
This land is
she also
not
gets
for
the
you.
worst of the worst. Yeah, but this is one of the very few cases that we said leave.
And do they ever like wonder what like causes that? Like certain parts of the land, could it be like some sort of magnetic thing?
I think there's a wide variety of things that probably cause different crossroads of issues. Yeah, it can be the geomagnetic energy of the location. There could be ley line.
That's a good one.
You know, energy
about that
impacting.
too.
That could be part of it. It could be what happened on the land previously, different, deaths,
That's what I think it
massacres.
is, usually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something bad happened there.
You basically taint the land.
All right.
Or it could be a conglomeration of a multitude of things. Imagine if a tragedy happened right on the ley line area. Well, then that land's always going to be unsettled. It's never going to be right. And so that can happen.
Gettysburg is never going to be not haunted.
Oh, well, yeah.
And because of what happened
It's
there.
got a vibe.
I've been to Gettysburg too.
Oh, yeah?
I don't think I ever had really any kind of ghost thing, but I was just there with my grandparents for a history.
Well, that's cool.
I think I was asking some stuff about ghosts, but I didn't get any kind of thing.
Usually, what people report there is stuff like, at night they'll see soldiers walking through the fields, or they'll hear gunfire or things like that.
Cannon fire,
when there's nothing, there's no
like,
reenactment.
to the point
going
where
on.
you think there's a reenactment going on.
Yeah, but there's not. So that's the kind of reports that I've heard, plus a bunch of other things. But I can understand why there would be stuff going on there. Just it's literally absorbed. It's stone tape theory. The environment has absorbed the memory of the past. So it's not even necessarily an active haunt. It's not an actual ghost you could necessarily interact with in a lot of those cases. It's just history literally replaying like a record player. It's just going over and over in a loop. And, that does happen. If something is that tragic, it will keep happening. So.
I gotcha. That makes me also think, too, because I've heard of that as well as like where the environment, something so massive or tragic gets environment. But I've also heard the thing too, to where I guess it's like another kind of like part of string theory or something, but to where us as humans, just because where our lifeline is or dimension we're in, and we see like time literally, but it's like technically like everything is still playing over and over again. It's just not
the
like
past, the present, and the future are all happening at once. That is a theory that's out there.
Yeah, I think that's the same one.
That we're experiencing or if you come from other planets, sometimes what they're seeing of us is from the past, and time is a mess.
Yeah.
Time is a goddamn mess.
Yeah.
And that gets into the quantum physics.
And then multiverses and a bunch of other stuff.
The best description of time that I think I've ever heard is that time can be described as a continually slightly increasing series of atomic frequencies. So we're at like a slightly higher frequency now than we were 200 years ago or 2 million years ago. And so it's like, as time goes forward, each second in time, each millisecond in time is defined by its own atomic frequency. Now that's a theory. I don't know that that's true, but that's the best explanation that fits in with what we know about quantum physics that I've ever heard of time, because we hear all the time that we hear that there's no time on the other side, and I have a hard time understanding what that means or how that would be. But you hear that a lot. Yeah, so that's,
or at least time looks different on the other side.
At least it looks
sure.
different. Yeah, and it's. There's just so much about all this. Quantum physics is one of those rabbit holes that you just go down forever. But the idea of you mentioned string theory, and then there's string theory, and there's the advanced quantum field theory. I actually subscribe to the latter more than the former. String theory basically says that everything is two-dimensional until it's observed, at which point it becomes three-dimensional, and it's all connected to one thing toward another, which, I don't know, I kind of have to think about that, but it doesn't set right with me for whatever reason. I think that we know that atoms themselves are three-dimensional, so you can't tell me that atoms become the two-dimensional if they're not observed, but we know they behave differently if they're observed, so, it's kind of like, right. The advanced quantum field theory basically says that everything that has ever happened and everything that ever will happen and everything that is happening is all happening right now. Which and the idea of the multiverse is there's doppelgangers, like we all have different versions of our lives play out in different multiverses, different alternate universes in different ways. So anything you can think of, and that has to be, because some form of that has to be. Because if you think about it, like Back to the Future, a lot of scientists and quantum physicists have said if there was ever a time travel movie that got it close to right, it's probably Back to the Future. Because of the idea that if you go and change something, except for the disappearing part, you wouldn't disappear. But if you change something in the past, what you do is create an alternate timeline.
For sure. I agree with that.
Yeah, there's a theory out there that there was an accident in the Large Hadron Collider back in 1994. There's the 1986 theory, and there's the 1994 theory, if I have my years right.
Okay.
The accident.
97.
Was it 97?
I
got my years wrong, but time doesn't exist, so it doesn't matter. In 1997, there was an accident in the Large Hadron Collider in Europe. And they were just starting to mess around with speeding up subatomic particles past the speed of light and colliding them together. And what they found out is when you do that, it produces twice as many particles that should be produced. The matter that was present before the collision is doubled, and half of it's dark matter. And and what they found is that in dark matter, the electrons spin the opposite direction of the original the original atoms, the original particles. So they don't know why any of this would be. Well, they were doing this, and they're speeding up things past the speed of light, which in physics is a no-no. Einstein said it was impossible. But you start.
Or maybe you just meant you shouldn't do it.
Anytime anything exceeds the speed of light, you're going to rip a hole in the fabric of time. And so that's what Einstein said. Anyways, he basically said it's impossible to exceed the speed of light, but if you did, you would reverse time for that particle and for that moment. So So at the same time that all this is happening, they're this thing's like 72 miles long or whatever, and and it takes just an instant for them to travel that distance. And then they collide them together. So it's getting everything amped up and ready to the power levels that they need that takes the time. The actual experiment takes a few seconds. So it's funny, and right at the wrong time, right as they were about to collide, right at that moment, there was a huge helium explosion, and a bunch of helium. We got this helium super cooled to hundreds of degrees below zero.
Right.
And liquid nitrogen, helium. There was this huge accident where all that got out. Pardon me. And the theory is that when that happened, it caused a chain reaction and tore a hole in the fabric of space and time and destroyed the universe. And we're now living in an alternate, and a replacement universe was automatically put in its place. I'm not saying I believe this. It's one of those theories out there.
Yeah, there's they got so many interesting
Doesn't that just creep you out just a little bit?
Yeah.
But there's this kid. He was actually invited to be interviewed by the government. The kid's IQ has been measured at something like 220.
Oh man!
And he's a young kid. He's probably a young adult now. And he's he explained, like in quantum physics and quantum mechanics terms, exactly how this happened and exactly why it happened. And you've heard of the Mandela effect. Well, this is why we have things like the Mandela effect. And the one that really bothers me about the Mandela effect is the Berenstain Bears. Because I know it was STEIN. I know it was.
I can't remember now, but I remember reading those as a kid. But I can't remember what was the thing. It's like Berenstein or Bernstein.
Yeah,
they say it's Berenstain Bears.
It's the Berenstain Bears.
And not Berenstein. And
I always have heard them as like the Bernstein Bears. But
Yeah.
who knows? I mean, someone else could have been calling it wrong. It was probably like someone saying Coca-Cola or like pop. You know what I mean? Like, it was probably like that.
some of it is just faulty memory.
Oh, no.
That absolutely is part of those Mandela effects. But
I'm convinced about the movie Shazam though.
Oh.
But I know I saw the one Kazam. I can't remember which one's supposed to be the false one and which one's real. I know I saw the one with Shaquille O'Neal in it.
yeah.
Because I didn't forget that. But it's like, hang on a second. I do have like some memory of Sinbad being in Shazam or something like that. I don't know if like maybe they did a skit and I saw a skit and people forgot the skit. I was like, something was out there that had
Something's
that.
not right.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe it just altered the frequency, but I don't know. I mean, when you stop and think that quantum mechanics and quantum physicists give very, very real credence to the idea that this is all a computer simulation.
Yeah, there's that one.
Yeah.
I'm not checking into that one.
They don't dismiss that out of hand. They don't dismiss that out of hand scientifically.
I do.
They have to say, scientifically, we can't disprove that. That's kind of what they say. It's sort of like trying to prove a negative,
I
right?
wish they would just prove it's not.
They're missing some information or whatever to further confirm or deny one of the others.
Yeah, I don't really think that that's possible, but who knows? I mean, if you want to go down that rabbit hole, think about the artificial worlds that we are able as humans to create. We have virtual reality. We now have the Metasphere, and I've got one of the little headsets. It's actually pretty.
Oculus Quest,
the Oculus, it's actually kind of cool, and everything. We're able to create an environment which is not real, but is a simulation of reality, and whole cities and everything else. Something like Flight Simulator that I'm a big fan of recreates the entire world. And you can fly around in it in the computer. Now you can do that in virtual reality if you have a good enough computer, and that's super. Like if you ever get a chance to do Flight Simulator in virtual reality, it's a trip.
I'll try it. I can believe it. Like I've done some of the video games where you're just playing that on a computer. If you're flying the plane, you still kind of want to lead with it.
Oh no, virtual reality.
Virtual
like
reality
when you actually when you go into the bank, your guts drop. Even though your body's not moving at all, your body will send signals to your brain. Like when I first tried virtual reality, it was at a trade fair, and I was on the back of a snowmobile in the simulation, and the snowmobile stopped and my body lurched forward. You felt the inertial effect of the sudden stop of the snowmobile.
That is pretty wild how like the body
Yeah.
can get tricked into.
Oh yeah, no. If you do a hard enough bank, you feel if you've ever been in a small plane that goes into this bank, your guts sort of drop a little bit. You feel that. If you go upside down, you'll feel the blood rush in your head. Which none of this has really happened. Your brain sends signals to you that is what's happening because that's the way it perceives it. So the point of that is we as humans are able to create those virtual worlds.
Yeah.
What kind of virtual reality really would an advanced society that's millions of years ahead of us, what would they be able to create, really?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's why scientists look at it and go like,
I don't want to be somebody's ant farm.
we can't discount it.
I just don't want it.
I think it's one of those things, like I was saying, man, it's kind of out of my power unless like something in the Matrix happened. Right. It's like you discover some back door, it's like, hang on a second, what? You know what I mean? But until like that day, it's like, man, I can't do nothing. Like one way or another, it's on my hands. Like I'm not even working for
this wasn't
NASA or whatever.
Oh yeah,
right?
This wasn't one of our cases. It was just something I read about.
Okay.
There was a guy who came home from work, and he's loving on his kid and talked to his wife and everything. But he noticed that night that a lamp in the house.
You heard this one? Continue in case the audience has it.
The lamp in the house didn't look right, and the lamp was growing, and it was fuzzy, and it was out of focus. And it got worse to the point where the lamp was upside down, and nobody else noticed anything wrong with the lamp. And
wasn't he hiding it or whatever?
To make a long story short, he hid it. Like he wouldn't tell us there anything wrong. Finally got to the point, make a long story short, where they started taking him to the doctor, started saying what's wrong with him, and they finally sat down with the kid and say, look, mom and dad sat down with the kid and say, look, there's something wrong with Daddy's brain, and we don't know what it is. If Daddy isn't here anymore, we want you to know that Daddy loves you very much, and Daddy will always be here for you, no matter what, always be here in spirit. So I just want you to know that Daddy loves you, and we need to have this talk with you because there's something wrong with Daddy's brain, and we don't know what's going to happen. It makes the kid really sad, and the kid's kind of depressed and everything. And they go around, they make final arrangements just in case. They do all the things they need to do, and they keep trying to find an answer. And at one point, the wife even talks about divorcing him because she can't take the stress. But then they decide to stay together, and then they go into marital counseling and all this, and this is going on for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, right? It goes on, and then one night he sits down and he's looking at this lamp again, and it's like, God damn it, it's starting again. And then the lamp grows so bright that it's the only thing he sees. And it just takes up his whole field of vision. He's like, what's happening? What's happening? What's happening? And then there's just like silence, and everything just goes down to nothing. And then there's like Mr. Smith. I don't know what the real name was, but Mr. Smith, are you with us? Are you with us, Mr. Smith? Can you wake up? And somebody's slapping him on the face, and he opens his eyes and he sees a paramedic. And the paramedic's like, we thought we lost you there. We thought we lost you there. Mr. Smith, you've been in a horrible car accident. But we think you're going to be okay. We've been able to stabilize you. Come to find out, he was in the accident, and the short time he was knocked out of the car and he hit his head on the pavement. And the short time that he was on the ground, let's call it 20 minutes. That he was on the ground after the accident. And the short time he experienced those weeks and weeks and weeks of life with a woman that didn't exist and a boy that didn't exist. His child and family didn't exist. He had known them all his life, but they didn't exist. His brain manufactured an entire another life in the space of 20 minutes.
And he had like different days happening in that, it wasn't just like this whole day goes on.
He was depressed to the point of almost suicide and missing his family. So this story really spoke to me because and I've talked about it on the radio about it, so it's a little embarrassing, I guess, but I have another family. This has happened. This has happened.
Well, you experienced it a few times in dreams.
This has happened to me, and it happened. And the last time I visited
I've
them,
had compression dreams too. That I've lived another life.
This has happened to me where I have a dream, and inside that dream, I experience months of real time. And I'm talking about having conversations, watching TV, reading books, eating meals, remembering what the meals are. Going to bed, having pillow fights, doing a whole thing, months and months of real-time memories of living another life, and then you wake up and you've been asleep for 6.5 hours.
Yeah.
What is that? And how, even if it's just all a dream, how can we experience in real time that amount of time? If you ever saw the movie Inception. Exactly. They're talking about time compression in dreams. What is that? If time is linear, it's clearly not.
Well, even that episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
That's a perfect example.
Picard lived a whole nother lifetime somewhere else, and it's bizarre.
It's right at the beginning. It's right at the beginning of the episode. Right at the beginning of the episode, and he's like, "Red alert!" They're going to red alert. Nobody knows why. Because he keeps having these episodes where he's living another life.
Oh shoot!
And it turns out like Q's messing with him. But having experienced that myself, and the last time it happened was when I broke my arm. And they checked in with me, and it's like, "Oh, you okay?" And it wasn't the 3 months was the longest I've ever had. It's usually just 2 or 3 days, but even that. To have 2 or 3 days worth of real time experience that you experience
somewhere else,
that your brain experiences as linear time in the space of hours. What is that?
Right. Like
how does that happen? And I had I had an experience when I was a kid. I decided that it sounded so bizarre that I actually took it down off my blog. I should probably put it back up, because I actually didn't. I took it as kind of a funny story that happened, But I rode my bike, and we were. I don't know. There was this weird thing. I think all things energetically. I don't think we were ever told we couldn't go back there. Although I do remember a farmer saying, "You boys do," because they're getting trespassing, but they didn't care. We had all these farm roads, these dirt roads that you could ride everywhere on the land that I grew up in. Not just the factory. There was farm fields that you could ride everywhere. There was woods you could go.
Oh, I get you. I kind of grew up.
Yeah, there was woods.
In West Virginia,
so river. Yeah. So we
right in the middle of Wyoming. There was nothing but cows and land and antelope.
We would ride to the old barn, which is about a mile away from the house. We called it the old barn. It was an old house that probably dated back to the beginning of the 20th century. And we were the farmers told us, don't ever ride past the old barn. Whatever you do, don't ever. And we thought it was because they had animals or whatever. Like it was for our own safety. Or whatever. And I got to know this kid Eric that I'd ride the bus home with and everything. And he lived in this house that was just beyond the old barn, right? And I'm down. And one day I'm down at the old barn on my bike, as I often was. And Eric comes around the bend there on his bike, and it was the first time I had seen him. And it's such a bizarre story. It's it's one of those things where you compartmentalize and. Stephen King called it putting it in a room that's labeled "This does not make sense."
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, he said, "Hey, why don't you come back and maybe you can have dinner with us at the house if your mom would be okay with that?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, I'm not going to ride all the way back to the house just out with gas if I can have dinner. I think it'd be okay. I really feel like it'd be okay. So I think my mom would say yes, and I'm just going to command decision. Sure, I'll have dinner with you." So I go and have this is a good Halloween story to wrap it up with.
I know, right?
So I go and have a dinner with their family, and I just thought the family was so quaint, for lack of a better description. They didn't have any electricity. Their oven was wood fired. And all the lights in the house were oil lamps. They didn't have any electricity. They didn't have a telephone. Everything was 18th, 19th century, right? And that's just the way they lived. And there are people in the country that live like that, like the Amish, you know. That's almost what I thought these people were. And he seemed so modern. He rode the school bus and everything. And he was a friend of mine, you know, and I could never find him at recess. It was the weirdest thing. You could never find Eric at recess. I always figured that he was doing some sort of like program, like, you know, they have an extra, you know, if you have to see a speech therapist or something, or a behavioral therapist or whatever, sometimes they do that at recess. So I figured it was something like that.
Okay.
In fact, you never find him at recess. It was the oddest thing. But this went on for a couple of years where I knew this kid. So anyways, this is after all that, I'm having dinner at their house and everything. And you know, we go out and he shows me upstairs, you know, and meet his sister and everything. I don't think I'd ever met his sister. We go back, and as I go outside, I had a time slip, I guess you'd call it. There was like this flash, and then I woke up, and I was by the old barn again on my bike. It was like I dreamed the whole thing or something. And I was like, that's really weird. And it was getting dark, so it was like, well,
time to go home.
So what I decided happened, even though Eric was a real kid, you know, that I must have dreamt the whole thing of having dinner, even though I had the taste of the chicken in my mouth, and I was full. I mean, I didn't need.
You had dinner.
I'd had dinner. I didn't need dinner. I would have that feeling of just having eaten. Had the taste of the food in my mouth, and I just woke up by the old barn. It was the weirdest thing as soon as I stepped outside their house. And I met their mom, and the mom said that the dad was going to be home soon, or there's a good couple of things there. And so I pedaled my bike home, didn't have a light on it, so I actually got out onto the highway because the farm roads were so dark you couldn't see where you were going. I'd almost have to walk the bike because it gets so dark down there. So I actually stupidly rode the bike on the edge of the road so I could at least see where I was going. Got up through the borrow pit and up onto the highway and did that. And got back. My mom was like, you know, where have you been? You've been gone for hours. And I was like, no, because I just rode to the old barn. Why was it dark? It was like 2. Now that I think about it, it was like 2 o'clock when I went down to the old barn. You know, so now that I think about it, I must have been. So I told her I fell asleep. This is the weirdest thing, you know, and everything. And I eventually told her, like, I'm not sure. I told her about the dream. I sort of told her, like, I'm not sure this was a dream, but I had dinner at this guy's house, and it's a friend of mine. So I'll show you the house. I know the house is real keen. I just went there, but I don't think it was a dream. I remember this all happening.
Gotcha.
And she's like,
did they put something in the chicken?
Right.
Like if something happened, because you said you walked, like you remember you moving, you had dinner.
It was linear memory of everything until I went outside of the house to go home.
And then you said it was just kind of like
a flash of light, and I woke up at the old barn. It was like
like you walk out. It's almost kind of like if you've been out like partying or whatever, so you go walk out. But as far as like, but you got
how'd you get there?
It's sort of like a cutscene in a computer game, right?
Yeah.
Almost like a cutscene in a computer game, exactly like that. And my mom, she just kind of went pale, you know. She said, "Honey, that house has been empty for 80 years."
Really? Huh?
That house is run down, and a lot of people think it's haunted. And that house.
I believe it is.
That house has been empty. No. My friend Eric lives there. That I know. That I know because the bus stops there and everything. And I talked to my sister and my brother, and I was like, "We don't know who you're talking about." So it says, "But here's now that you mention it, it's like this is the time to talk about this. Because you do something really weird, Brent, that we've been talking to Mom about, and we didn't know how to address it with you, and now it's come up, and now it's starting to make sense. You sit in the same seat on the bus and talk to yourself every day."
Oh God. Oh. You talk to the dead kid every day.
That's what Have you heard that part of it before?
Yeah.
It sounds like she's reacting to it like she
like it's been a long time since you've told this story.
Okay, no, I thought.
Long time.
Yeah, I saw after you said all that, I was like, oh, okay, well, Eric probably gets dropped off there. He's like, oh, I don't go to that house, I go to another one, like behind it or something, but that's crazy. So,
Eric on the
so
goddamn bus.
A lot of kids would get off at the same stop is the thing there, but I always remember Eric getting off at that stop.
Yeah.
There was kids that would go to the other side of the highway, whose houses really did exist.
But like, because that house was there, but just no one ever went in.
There was a house there.
Yeah.
But nobody had lived in it for over 80 years.
That's crazy. So yeah, and that kid, either they had the school there or something like that.
The house that was there was built before there was electricity or indoor plumbing or anything like that.
Right? And like, how would you as a kid know that at the time, like, to come up with?
Yeah.
Like,
the farmers always told us.
He wouldn't have any idea.
The farmers always told us, whatever you do, don't ever ride past the old barn.
So, that's crazy.
That was a good Halloween story for you that happens to be true.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's creepy.
I grew up on this messed up piece of land, and it has a lot to do with why I believe the paranormal is absolutely real.
So, like, I think that's like a big plot of land, like, that they had to be on. Like, you have, like, the factory, I guess, in one part of town, so to speak.
Over 200 acres.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a big.
I grew up on over 200 acres. We didn't own all 200 acres.
Yeah, but that's like the
We
land.
pretty much had free reign of it, though. We went there, and the farmers didn't really stop us.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That's like I said. I grew up on the country living too, and where like kids do whatever.
Yeah, they didn't care. We were on our bikes, and
Gotcha.
stuff. They pretty much gave us free reign, and we didn't hurt anything. And a lot of strange experiences on different parts of that 200 acres. But
Most certainly.
my friend John and I tried to become a werewolf one time. We got a hold of this book of how to become a werewolf, and we were following the instructions. And it was funny. It was funny too.
You were a strange kid, honey.
What ended up happening? We got this like big iron pot. We got my mom's turkey pot. It was the closest thing to.
I'm sure she liked that.
The closest thing to an iron cauldron that we could find.
Yeah.
What ended up happening is we spilt the whole thing that we were making and put out the fire, and we're like, well, shit.
No more werewolf. Was it like a modern day like?
It was the strangest little book that we got a hold of.
Now, how did you get a hold of it?
It was my brother's book, and I don't know where he got it. It was just weird.
Your brother was
Wait, so you said Wisconsin, right?
No, Wyoming.
Wyoming. I was gonna say no, because the werewolf thing. That was one thing I was gonna ask too, because I remember years ago they had like the Beast of Bray Road that had come out, and like so. Yeah, I don't know. I think the Dogman thing is like a really interesting.
That's an interesting one, yeah.
Yeah, some people aren't. Some think like, hey, it could be a shapeshifter. Some like have. There's like 3-4 different like speculations of what it could be.
The one that blows me away is Helltown.
Oh.
Where's this at?
Ohio. There's
Something's wrong.
Oh, is that the one?
There's a special called Helltown on the Discovery
Did they
Channel.
base that? Is that the one they based it on Silent Hill because underneath it, the coal's still burning? They had like a fire that.
No, this is a different one.
Okay.
And I, knowing the tricks of videography, I watched the guy when he lowered the camera down into the hole, and what's actually beneath it. So it's a really interesting documentary. It's on the Discovery Channel, I think.
About Helltown?
Yeah, it's called Helltown.
Okay.
And basically, like, there's this deer man walking around that sucks the people drive inside out, whatever. I thought it sounded so stupid.
That
This
sounds like a Wendigo or something.
It's exactly what it is.
Oh shit.
The Wendigo is exactly what it is. Pardon me, and throat gets dry from fire so much. But yeah.
Alright, I'll get you some.
Ford turned this place into a national park, like while he was on a ski vacation. Like used emergency powers to create a national park.
Oh man.
That's the only time it's ever been done. There's nothing there. You can actually go there and visit because it's a national park now, right?
Yeah.
It's the world's most boring national park. There's nothing there to make a national park out of. It's trees and grass. It's trees and grass and hills.
It's just like where you can go to nature.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not that far out of Cleveland, I think it is. Which there's a couple other very haunted spots nearby.
Yeah. There's like that area.
That whole area is just like messed up. But what's interesting is this guy. And he lowers the camera into it. They supposedly found this government complex underneath where all this Wendigo stuff was going on, and they had like this vault where like I don't know where he filmed it because he got it on film, but there's this abandoned government complex, and it looks like the beginning of Doom or something. It was like people obviously left in the middle of meals, and chairs are overturned. There's blood on the walls, dried. Of course, there's this big vault that's blown open. That it looks like they're trying to contain something very large and very powerful.
And it got out.
Yeah. And he's got it on, and I suppose it could have been fake, but I watched when they lowered the camera. It's a continuous shot. So if he spliced it, it was done masterfully. you know. And,
that's like
but more than that, they've got eyewitnesses that were there, and I was like, you know, like I don't stand. Everybody's going to think I'm crazy for saying this on TV. I say I have nothing to gain from saying this, but this is what happened. You know, and all this, it's just the craziest thing. And like by the end of it, I'm like, holy shit, there's something to this.
Yeah.
You know, this is creepy as hell. I mean, it doesn't make sense that they would have made it a national park because there's nothing there. But the guy goes back with a film crew and a TV crew and everything to show him. There's this fake rock where the hole is and everything. You know,
they were like cemented over.
Yeah. The fake rock is still there. It's like, no, I'm going to show you guys. And so the film crew's going to go down there and going to document things. This is going to be a national story. And it lifts up the rock, and the whole thing's been filled in with cement.
Damn. But you do see at one point, like wherever they went down and got like footage of like where something's been.
Yeah. No, you see the whole complex.
Oh shit. Okay.
Unless he found another complex to film, but it's pretty much a continuous shot going down in there from above.
Interesting. I'll have to check it out. Like now, what else is there to Helltown though besides the fact that there's what would you say? Like Henry Ford was there, and then they turned it into that. Like
Gerald Ford. Did I say Henry Ford? No.
You just said Ford.
Yeah,
so
President Ford was the one.
Yeah.
So, anyways, the sad part of this is that there was people living there and they were displaced. The government came in apparently armed and said this is what we're paying you for your house, which is pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
And said President Ford has exercised the eminent domain, and because of that you're out. And they wiped the whole town off the map. It was called Boston Township.
Okay.
And they wiped the whole town of Boston Township off the map and turned it into a national park.
And then it just got the nickname Helltown.
Yeah, it got the nickname Helltown because there's supposedly this beast that's kept in its place by these stones that the early settlers put in. These supposedly magic stones that are made of granite. We talk about stones having an effect on natural entities, and apparently is kept bound to this one area of forest by these stones with W's on them, and you can't go out of those bounds because of that. And there's this thing, and they have pretty good footage of supposedly their friends being killed by this thing. You know, and he's hiding behind a log, you know, and everything. And that's the one guy, you know, and he got out. You know, he got out by like hiding in a log.
And
it's horrifying.
Yeah, I mean, there's people dead. There's people who lost their homes. There's an entire town gone. For what? So that we can make a national park out of a meadow and some trees? Yeah, something's not adding up here, folks.
Yeah, no, the government's always doing that. Well, even again, like from where I'm from, in like West Virginia, I'm sure you're all familiar with the Mothman and all that.
Oh yeah, that's an interesting one.
But yeah, like there's different, like a whole bunch of different things, but like it's supposedly like he was mainly around like the TNT plant they used to call it. Because during World War II, they'd make like TNT or whatever, and then after the war or whatever, they just shut it down.
Yeah.
But supposedly there might have been like equipment there, so their speculation was it like a mutated animal or something like that. Did aliens come in? And then I remember the dude who wrote the book, he said that like, the friend of mine had told me this, so I'll have to check the book, so I'm kind of quoting a friend or whatever, but the guy that like wrote it, apparently in the book, he said whenever he got to like a certain location, he would like get like just these like feelings of like just being uneasy, and then but he'd get out and then he'd be like, oh, okay, I feel alright, but then he'd go back and then there'd be that. But part of it he wasn't sure, I guess, either over time if it was like was the government using some sort of like sonar thing. You know how they have like those like non-lethal weapons that they pointed like to disperse a crowd. He wasn't sure if it was something like that they could have been testing. Something like that they could have been testing ahead of time. Because he was like it would only be in like certain areas he'd feel that. And then, I don't know, the whole Mothman thing was like really interesting.
Isn't that where is it? Yeah, no, yeah, it's Trans-Allegheny?
Wait, West Virginia was where Trans-Allegheny.
Yeah, Trans-Allegheny, I've been there.
I
never had any ghostly encounter there, though, as far as I know.
Yeah, he wants to drag me there to
No, it's one you're supposed to go to.
Yeah.
I'll give you a ghost story. Here, I'll give you two of them.
Sure.
Real quick, because one of them was back in, like, these both are back in West Virginia, but there was one time, like, it was me and my ex, and we were sitting on the couch about, like, how you are, and she had a cat, but she didn't have it at the apartment I was in at the time, and I think every now and then I'd catch it out of the corner of my eye, but I was like, maybe it's just my imagination. But one day, like it was like I saw the corner of my eye, like a black cat run into the kitchen or whatever, and I looked over at it. She was like, "Did you see that too?" And I was like, "Oh damn!" So that's like another crazy one.
Yeah, I see ghost cats all over the house.
But I've never really noticed one ever since then.
That's good.
So, but I remember seeing that.
What happens? Maybe if she had previous cats from before in her youth that just always go with her places.
It could have. Like I said, it wasn't her apartment that we were at.
No, they can follow.
Yeah, no, I believe that.
Yeah.
So, and because part of me was wondering, well, could it have been someone that had it in the building before me?
Sure. Yeah, that could also be possible.
Or what? But I don't know. And then the other one. This is the craziest one that I've had. Have you ever heard of Lake Shawnee in West Virginia? Okay, yeah, because they did a bunch of shows there. Well, during around this time of the year, the dude who owns it lets you go there and do whatever because he charges. So I went there in college to do a story on some stuff, but I went there with a few friends, and he told a story about it. Now, on some of the pictures we had taken, you can see orbs and stuff and some mist, and I've never really gotten a lot of orbs in any other photos I've taken or anything, but here I've gotten them. And the mist, now I don't know if the mist could have just been, we weren't walking around, it was misty that night or anything, but I didn't know, maybe it just caught a little bit because there's some humidity there.
Yeah.
Sure.
And all that, but the orbs off. But anyway, the dude who owned it was like, oh yeah, usually if you go over to this trailer here and you say something and you have a girl with you, usually it'll respond and whatever to that, and maybe the light will go off or whatever, not like a haunted house flickering it, but something like that. And a friend of mine thought that the light to the house was off earlier before we went over there. So I go, we knock on the door, and I have my recorder thing. We don't get any response, and so I just put on this New York accent. It's like, oh, I have this girl out here for you. You don't come out here, blah, or whatever. And then blah, blah, blah. And then so we leave after that. And as we're heading out, it's like you have the road that comes down this way, and then you leave the land going this way. Well, it's like as we cross and we get onto the road, all of a sudden it sounds like a shotgun goes off and the car just shuts down. Yeah, and my buddy's like, what the hell? And he's trying to turn it. We couldn't get it to start. And I was like, and Angie, like I said, I wouldn't say I'm overly religious or anything, but I believe that Angie was way more religious. So I was like, Angie, start saying a prayer or something like that. You got better connections. So finally, my friend Ryan got the car turned on and we got out of there. But as we were going, we thought we had a demon car or something after us. It was the whole way back, some redneck was tailing us with the lights.
Oh no!
And at some point he went around and it wasn't a demon car. We saw him parked at the fire station on the way there. They're like, they're like, oh man, we got park.
It's right now, yeah.
Right, so it was just that was the craziest experience I had. I've told that on here before.
Yeah, I've heard it's a very haunted
That'd
area.
be unsettling. Yeah.
That would be quite unsettling.
Yeah, so I don't know if I pissed off the ghost or what, but I guess I did.
Well, you got its attention.
Yeah, I got it riled
up
for sure. That's all I was really wanting was his attention, so I was going to throw me something.
Sometimes you get more than you bargain for. That's what I always kind of say, to kind of just sort of, to bring it all home. You gotta be careful what you wish for sometimes.
We always tell people.
You gotta be careful with all of the paranormal stuff. It's fun to check out the haunted locations and the cool places, but
when you look at the paranormal, sometimes the paranormal looks back at you.
Yeah, I'll say that. Yeah, if you want to get involved with it, it'll definitely want to get involved with
you. Yep.
With you.
You gotta know
that's the truth.
You gotta know what you're doing for sure. But I do know that although we're having a whole hell of a lot of fun and a lot of good conversation, we have a couple of other obligations we have to attend to today.
No, that's all good.
So I don't want to, mess up with all of our other fun. Plus, I'm sure you have crap to do too. So
when you gotta go, we'll go ahead and wrap this podcast up. If there's anything else you want to say, feel free.
I just appreciate you chatting with all of our fun paranormal stuff. And if people want to check us out, SacSpirit.com is always there. It takes me forever to write people back because my God, my life is busy and my calendar's busy. But we're always trying to help people and just be out there and do the best that we can.
And the air pressure's dropped 0.7 hectopascals while we've been talking.
Well, that's also fun too.
Probably attributable to the time of day, though. It does change. It does change over the course of the day. That's normal.
Yeah, we just love to share what we do. We're all about. We post stuff on Facebook, on Instagram. We're definitely active there, and we're just we're around. We're floating around, helping people out, and we're going to be on a radio program on Halloween, so
nice.
That'll be fun, and we'll be posting about that on our socials.
Where can they check that out? What radio program?
So it'll be 104.7 FM or 890 AM. It's Rad Radio.
Oh, okay.
And so we will be on there from 8 to 10 on Halloween. So that'll be just fun for if you want to see us doing a little. We're going to be dressed up.
Cool.
So yeah, we'll have our Halloween costumes on. But we just we're always around and trying to share a little light wherever we go.
And the best way to get a hold of us is on sacspirit.com or on Facebook. Is it Facebook/Sac SPIRIT?
Facebook.com/Sac SPIRIT.
Yeah.
Where people can find it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll leave you with a business card you can insert and post.
Yeah.
Sure. I got something I'll add. Don't worry. As we're talking, I'll bring it up. But yeah, guys, you got a ghost problem, whatever, you can't get a hold of Dan Aykroyd with them, but you can get a hold of Sac SPIRIT and they'll do you better, I think.
God willing.
Yeah.
You know what we're doing.
Yeah.
All right, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for coming down.
All right, no, thanks for having us. Appreciate this, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Very
You
fun.
want to come back and do another one?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I could have kept on going and asking you questions.
I know. I don't